and then I'll watch the game.
No, you can't watch the game on this. I already tried.
Oh, really?
I already asked.
So much for the benefits of public service.
I have it up. I'll keep you informed of the score.
Chris, don't you remember we had that Bruins game one year on that thing?
I do.
And
As I recall, they weren't doing all that well either. Are we on the air? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular May meeting of the Concord Zoning Board of Adjustment. We will follow our usual procedure this evening, which is to say we will take the cases in the order in which they appear in the agenda. We will ask the appellant to step forward and provide us with any information that they would like us to have. We ask them, if at all possible, to confine their testimony to 10 minutes. We will then solicit testimony from anyone who is in favor of the appeal or anyone who is in opposition to the appeal. We ask that those folks confine themselves to 5 minutes. Following that, we will check in with the planning department to find out if there are any contributions from their office to the case, and then if any testimony that has been offered that seems to bear factual clarification, the appellant will have the opportunity to offer that clarification, not new arguments, prior to our closing the public testimony portion of the hearing. Under most circumstances, the board will act on each case prior to moving on to the next. The first case this evening is case 0263, listed on the agenda as 4.1. Kadai Stephen Williamson and Hillary Ann Adams request approval for a special exception from section 2824, allowable principal and accessory uses in zoning districts, to permit a major home occupation for home-based brewing with a non-permanent brewing accessory structure pursuant to occupation for home-based brewing with, with a non-permanent brewing, you heard that part before, didn't you? Pursuant to section 28.530C, major home occupation at tax map lot 6442Z6, addressed as 21 Auburn Street in the single-family residential RS district. This is not a development of regional impact. Is either of the appellants here? Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but it?
Wait, should we wait for him to swear as well?
Oh, yes, he needs to swear as well.
I'm the brewer.
You both swear to tell the truth and nothing but it.
Yes, sir.
Would you identify yourselves for the record, please, as you testify?
Kadai Stefan Williamson.
I'm Hillary Ann Adams.
What would you like us to know?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, neighbors, beer drinkers. My name is Kadai. I go by Stefan Williamson. This is my wife, Hillary Adams. We're the owners of 21 Auburn Street. Our application for a special exemption permit is to move our one-barrel brew system out of the basement in our house out to a structure in the backyard. The reason we want to do this is to obtain a pre-health and safety approved location, so in the future we have the opportunity to sell at farmers markets, for example, or even potential guest tap at one of the breweries in Concord. The structure, I put the technical drawings in the presentation. The structure will be at absolute max 13 by 13 feet and 7 feet tall. And the plan is to brew no more, I mean, if time permits, I have a full-time job and 2 kids, if time permits, no more than twice a month. I'm going to hand over to Hillary to address some of the concerns that we've heard.
Yeah, so I think first of all, just to provide some context, we have some really strong ties to this community. I actually grew up in Concord, around the corner from where we live now. My parents moved there 40 years ago, so I spent my childhood there, and then pulled this Scotsman over, got him citizenship, and now moved our family up to New Hampshire to be closer to my mom and to build community, where we love to be. I think I wanted to address a few concerns that came through from our neighbors, because they're my concerns too. They're our concerns too. We're part of the community. These are things that we've discussed, so I'm really glad they brought them to the board's attention. First of all is the site of a structure. If you'll see in your packets and in the application, where it is actually not visible from Forest Street, and we have these giant, beautiful 40-foot tall trees that block our the side of the yard that faces Auburn Street, so you can't really see it. Number one. Two, one thing that came up I saw was smell. That seemed to be a concern that a lot of neighbors brought up. It's in our basement currently, and part of the reason why we live in New Hampshire is to smell the beautiful air and trees. I can't smell it in our house, and definitely wouldn't want anything in my yard that obstructs the smell of, the beautiful springtime and the fall leaves. So again, our community's concerns are our concerns, and they're things that we've addressed. And Steph, there's a technical reason why.
What allows us to, or what permits us currently to brew in the basement is we have a steam condenser lid on top of the boil kettle, so cold water is shot up, vaporizes, and drips into a bucket. There is no smell. I've brewed now in the basement quite a few times.
This is a guy with an advanced mechanical engineering degree who's retired to New Hampshire. The other concern was signs. We have 2 small children. We definitely would never advertise a brewery in our home where we live, where we play outside. I don't want strangers coming up to our house looking for beer. That's definitely would have been a concern of mine, and is not something that would happen. I know it's been a concern brought up by some of our neighbors. The size, I noticed a thread of concern in that this would be kind of like a tipping point or a slippery slope, that it would grow from this in our backyard. Again, we have 2 small kids. We love our backyard. We love that they can run and play outside. We have a play structure out there. The reason why it's a temporary structure is so that it doesn't get any bigger. And if Steph wants to grow a bigger brewery, he can find a permanent place somewhere else. This is just for what we have right now, and we'll see how it goes. But it's definitely not getting bigger in our house, because we also don't want it to be bigger. We want to enjoy our home the way it is. And then last and not least, just to re-hammer that point of this is our community too, this is our home too. Oh, trucks. Sorry, I almost forgot. Trucks, that was a concern, my concern too. I don't want trucks rolling over my backyard. We don't have a fence there so that neighbors can come and drop by and say hi. I don't want to have 18-wheelers driving over. That's not what happens. This is us out of our Subaru. Steph driving down to a brew store, picking up hops in our Subaru, driving it back home. I think somebody on a travel soccer team probably goes in and out of our driveway more than what brewing really takes. In terms of delivering anything, if that ever came up, again, there's the only amount that would happen would be out of our Subaru. Because we also I don't want to have delivery trucks driving up to my home where there are 2 small children, again, just kind of rolling over the streets. I know what it takes when we resurface the roads on Ridge Road, because I've lived here for 30 years, and I also don't want to contribute to degradation of the roads. We don't want to contribute to degradation of the roads. We're here to be members of the community, and we solicited inputs from our neighbors and invited them to our house on Monday just to check it out and ask any questions they had, because we want to make sure that we have their support. If you have any other technical questions, Steph can answer.
I just wanted to say the picture on the front, the container is to scale, and the picture below it is you standing at the front of the container looking out. This container can be cladded in whatever. It can be cladded in wood to match the house. We'll work with the neighbors on whatever is most aesthetically pleasing. But yeah.
I think in some of the concerns, they were asking for limitations to make sure that it doesn't grow any bigger, and we'd be totally open to that, because no intention, and want to make sure that everyone's comfortable. So.
Would you address the criteria for a special exception, please? The ones you put in the application.
Yeah.
You responded to, just for the benefit of anybody who's in the room who hasn't read the app.
Is it on here?
It is.
Yeah.
Let me get it for you. I do that all the time.
Being completely online has really sped things up for us.
Sarcasm, sir.
I haven't printed it under my.
It is. So you can just.
Okay, so.
Just read them.
Okay, so yeah, point 1 was requesting the Zoning Board of Adjustments to grant special exemption to allow the accessory use of a major home occupation in the RS zone, major because it's off the house. It can't be in the house. I mean, it is in the house. It can't be in the house in order to obtain the health and safety permitting in order to take it to farmers markets, etc. Number two, it will be no greater, as I said, than 13 by 13, located in the backyard as far away from either of the streets. It'll be out of public access. Yep, it'll be out of public access for sure. Number three, I only intend to brew one barrel twice a month, so there'll be no significant increase to any municipal systems. Yep, at an absolute most. I mean, at the moment, I've brewed once in the last 2 months, and none of the systems, water runoff, none of that will be affected. When I clean it, I use 10 gallons of water, which is a third of one of the vessels you see on the countertop there. So no municipal systems are affected. The only thing that will be run out is electricity. I could go into the technicalities, but 10 minutes was what I was told. The request is no excessive demand for municipal police. I don't see why the police, fire protection, schools, I don't see why that would be affected at all. One bag of barley is all that goes into one of these brews. Number five, the Article 28.5 supplemental standards. Yep, it's a subordinated single-family detached dwelling, primarily non-retail use. It'll be well under 25% of the habitable floor area of the dwelling. Max brewery size, again, 169 square feet. I am the owner-occupant of the house. I will be the only employee. We have 0.39 acres, and the brewing containers is a max 13 by 13, 169 square feet, again, 7 feet tall. Cans and kegs of beer produced by the major home occupation will be hand delivered to client. There will be no sales under any circumstances on site. If this dream works out, I will be hand delivering to the farmers market or wherever it may go. Try not to drink it all myself. Number seven, I'll use a condenser stack as I mentioned, so there's no fumes at all. No excessive traffic. Our car is the only vehicle that will be used. And noise. The few neighbors came over on Monday, as Hillary said. The glycol chiller is the loudest thing we have, and it's a light hum that kicks on now and again. It will not be heard.
And we've tested it with our neighbor who lives the closest to where the structure would be, and he hasn't heard it.
On 20 Ridge. No parking will be required, again, just our vehicle. And no signage. Yeah, we saw signage came up in a couple of the emails in. There's absolutely no intention to put any signage up.
Very good. Questions from the board? Andrew.
I don't have much familiarity with beer brewing. So when you say you brew at most twice a month,
yeah.
Does that mean you get a yield twice a month, or does it mean how much time is there spent to
so
get a
brew
result
day,
twice a month?
I prep the yeast the night before, yeast starter. It's a 5-liter yeast starter, and then the brew day itself lasts between 5 and 6 hours.
But the actual boiling, which I think is the concern, is 90 minutes.
Yeah, I do a 90-minute boil on pretty much all my beers. So that's when any fumes would go out if I didn't have the condenser stack. So yeah, it's 5 hours twice a month at most.
So when it's not in use, there's not much activity.
When it's not in use, I have uni tanks that are jacketed with this glycol chiller that gives off a light hum, and that keeps it cold. I have 2 of these units.
I mean, it just keeps it cold while you're waiting to deliver it.
Yeah, it conditions in there. It's not touched. So I'm not even going to be going in and out of there like every day. It sits in the uni tank, and from there, hypothetically, I can can inside the unit.
Then how long have you been doing it inside your house?
I've been doing it inside the house. I've only done one brew inside the house.
On this system.
On this system, yeah. My previous system was a 5-gallon system, which I did just in the driveway.
Which you did.
Which I've done since 2016, since moving to America.
So that's just a small. So you kind of upgraded to a larger system.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Is the structure going to be heated?
If needed, I would probably get a wood pellet stove to combat to combat freezing in the winter. but I don't plan on running any like AC unit out or anything like that. Because again, the uni tanks, the two fermenters pictured there, have the glycol chiller to cool, and then they have little heating pads inside that are electric. So if needed, I would just be a pellet stove for anything freezing, the electrics.
And I'm trying to understand why you want to move it from the basement outside. Is there some health
Yeah,
and safety issues associated with the wholesale production?
Yeah, the basement just will not pass health and safety inspection. It's simply so we have the opportunity to get that inspection, so that we can get the required permits to be able to attend like farmers markets. Like at the moment, it's only for me and friends to consume, and if there's an opportunity for others to taste it, then why not?
And you're going to keg it or bottle it or can it?
It can be either. Could be either. I have no like contracts, or no one has said anything about wanting it, so it's right now just dreaming.
And the structure would accommodate canning and bottling?
Yeah, I have it's a picture here. You can just see under the third vessel on the right. It's a single canning, tabletop canning unit. So it's just one cannon at a time.
How many gallons does each?
One entire batch is 31 gallons. That's the max it can be. That's the max it can be. 31 gallons.
How many cans is that?
248 16-ounce cans.
Okay. Other questions? Anything else you'd like us to know?
I think we're good.
I think we're okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to our seats.
Yeah.
Spot the tourists here.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in favor of this appeal? Please come forward.
Like the walk-on music that people get.
Yeah. I asked for this particular tune. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I do.
Would you identify yourselves for the record as you testify, please?
My name is Robert Moses. I live at 23 Auburn Street,
Gina Moses, also at 23 Auburn Street, so next door.
next door. We live directly across Forest Street from Steph and Hillary, and our side entrance, our garage and driveway faces their driveway and garage. We have no objection to this at all. We think it's a nice idea for them to be able to both continue the hobby of beer making and also possibly be able to begin the process of making it commercial if that works for him. We don't think it will have any impact whatsoever on the character of the neighborhood, on our house. Steph and Hillary have assured us, and we believe them, having seen the sizes of the units, that there won't be any trucks there. It's just going to be them driving in and out of the just sort of the usual, almost hobby kind of thing, where he'll go pick up barley and hops and drop it off, and if he takes his beer somewhere, he'll take it in his own car. We don't expect any on-site sales. We don't see any signage capability, so we just don't think it's going to impact anything. We don't think people will notice. So that's my test.
And just so that you know, since we're right across Forest Street, which is the small street, we can't see into their backyard. Their house blocks the way. The owners who've lived there before have had structures in their backyard. Can't see anything, so we're not worried about the shed being back there at all. And he could clad it or make it look better, but nobody will see it.
Nobody will see it. We looked. I walked down Auburn Street today to take a look at it from across the Auburn Street, and it would be almost impossible to see from any direction. I know somebody's put in a picture of maybe you could see it, but if you're directly across on Auburn Street, you can't see it because of the 40-foot trees. So I don't think it'll be visible at all.
Would that, what about in the winter when there's no?
They're evergreens.
They're evergreen trees.
Oh, okay. Are those trees on their property or?
Yeah.
Yes, they're on Auburn Street, they're on their property on the Auburn Street side. And what blocks from our view, which is the Forest Street side, is their house.
You can see them in the staff memo, I think. There's an overhead picture, and you can see this line of trees on Auburn Street.
Yeah. And if you want a picture, I took a picture, so I can show you what that looks like from
Anyway,
across Forest Street.
happy to help out a young, family trying to have fun and figure out their life, so no objections.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Chris, I don't know if you, can we get a street view? Okay, I'm sorry, that's the planning director's job.
Let me figure out how to do a street view. Oh, you want me Google Maps?
Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
I do.
Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Tim Robson. I live at 23 Ridge Road, which is around the corner from Steph and Hillary. We're one of the first houses on Ridge. Like the Moses, we feel that there is no problem with this. It's like a shed is being put in the backyard. And this shed is being used to create some produce that is a small amount of produce that is going to be sold. And there's a lot of health and safety requirements, and we hope the business is very successful.
Questions from the board? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If you're looking for a house, it's, you can't see it.
Yeah. It's where the evergreens are.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in opposition to it? Please come forward. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
I did.
Mrs. Rosenberger, would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yeah, Teresa Rosenberger. I am not an abutter. I live at 29 Auburn Street, and I'm here speaking for my husband and myself. And I want to say, first of all, I just met these lovely people tonight. They haven't been in the neighborhood long, and it pains me to oppose what seem like nice young people who moved into our neighborhood. However, I look at this from a bigger perspective than Auburn Street, and I'm looking at it for citywide. When I look at this, clearly, in order for him to sell commercially, he's got to move outside the house to get the safety conditions, the safety permits, etc. He's got to move outside. Once he moves outside and he gets these permits, he's selling, he's distributing. Whether he's warehousing technically or not, he's keeping it in something while he's waiting to bottle it and take it to somebody. So I look at this as it's not consistent at all with the purpose of your, I think it's what, 25, 5, 30, I'll look it up, but it's not consistent with the purpose of home occupancy. When you look at what you did in the zoning ordinance, and speaking about telecommunications and in-home working in it, that looks like, reads like it's the service industry. So it's CPAs, it's counselors, it's lawyers, it's people, consultants, it's in-home use. It's not manufacture, warehousing, distribution. I think my concern about it is once this exception goes through, and hopefully he's successful and he's able to sell to Concord Craft Brewery, or he's able to sell at the farmers market, and he does well, he's going to move out to a commercial brewing entity. And at that point, the property, the special permit, I think, conveys. You guys know more about zoning than I do, but I think the special permit conveys. That house has turned over quite a bit since the Linahans left a decade or so ago. And, you know, these are lovely people, and he's got his heart's in the right place. He wants to start a new business. However, If you grant the special exception, it stays. And so somebody else comes in, and what else are they going to manufacture? What else are they going to distribute? What else are they going to warehouse? The other concern I have is, what does this do for the South End? What does it do for the other parts of the town? Are you creating a precedent? And it's a precedent that's being set when we don't know he's going to get the permitting, we don't know he's going to be able to sell commercially, and once he starts selling, it's commercial. That does not seem to me any way consistent with what the zoning ordinances are for this major, whatever we call it, major site, major home accessory dwelling occupation. Eric and I did send you a letter. I have a lot of questions in there. One of the questions I have is not asking for a traffic study, because I don't really care how many cars go down there, but asking for a traffic safety analysis, because that block has two properties. One faces Ridge and one faces Auburn. That, unfortunately, I will say, the neighbors asked years ago, could we get a stop sign? Because people come down Auburn, headed south, they whip through there, and then they take a quick turn at Ridge, and they're going to the hospital or to the high school, and it happens all the time, and they whip through. If anything's there, and he's going to load on his Subaru. I don't know whether he's going to load in his Subaru on Auburn Street or he's going to load on Forest Street, but he's loading, 124 cans of beer? Somebody ought to look at what the traffic is there and what goes on when the high school is starting, when the high school is ending, and when the hospital shifts are changing. And, I don't know if you're going to approve it. You put a condition, he has to do the loading of his beer on Auburn Street, so you're not, I'm not, and it doesn't have a lot of space between the garage and the neighbors on the Ridge roadside. So that is really, the other thing I was going to say is, if this is precedent setting and you're getting ready, the city, to do the master plan, I would seriously suggest that this be part of what you do with the master plan, because if you're going to approve, and I think Mr. Robeson said it, he's manufacturing products and produce that's going to be sold. So if you're going to do that, I think it really would be very wise for the entire city to be able to weigh in on the master plan. Do you want these type of entities in your residential neighborhoods? And that's really more the question, is what do you want in a residential neighborhood? And I well understand, as long as he's doing it in his basement, he can't sell it commercially. But there are, as we all know, people who were doing food years ago and trying to sell it commercially. They go rent space at Capital Center for the Arts. There are breweries out there and space that I think one could commercially rent. And I actually do know of a brewery for sale that would be a great buy for somebody who wants to be a brewer. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
You are very welcome.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to be heard who hasn't been heard yet? Please come forward. Sir, tell the whole truth and nothing but.
I do.
May we have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Joni McIntyre. I'm at 10 Auburn Street. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
So I was in City Hall and asked in the zoning department, does a special exception in fact follow the land?
Yes.
And not the owner?
Yes.
So I guess that's my concern as well, is that, and I really hope they are successful, and I just live down the street and haven't met them, and I'm sorry about that, and I'm sorry this is our first meeting. But I do wish them great success. But in that would come more traffic and possibly more brewing. But also, I'm a real estate agent. I know that this may not be their forever home, and the next person who comes in could also have that ability to do that, and may not be as amenable as they are saying they would be. So that would be a concern for me, and it can't have more than 20 vehicles a day, and they're not going to do that, but the next people may do that. So,
but it follows the land as to the specific.
So if it's
exception.
a microbrewery now, it could be a microbrewery again when the next person owns it.
as to what they've requested, right? As to what
Right.
what we've approved for their specific use.
Right, right, except the next people don't have to say we'll only do one brew a year, correct?
If it's approved, it would be approved based on the representations they've made in their application and tonight. And if it's approved, the board has heard the neighbors' concerns, and I suspect it would be approved with conditions of approval, limiting the use to what has been represented here tonight.
I also would like to say, I'm not really that concerned about what it looks like. You can't see it. And if they were here asking to build an ADU for their parents to move in, I would have no problem with that. I'm a real estate agent. I think we need more housing. I know how very difficult it is to get zoning changes in the state of New Hampshire. And so I'm kind of surprised that this would be very, that tonight we could do this very quickly, and that could be a microbrewery.
So you're mainly concerned, you're not concerned about the visual, you're concerned about the traffic?
I'm concerned
the
about
precedent.
the precedent. Yeah. I would love for them to build an ADU for their parents, but I can't say that enough. Yeah.
Stick around.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are there any other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else, please come forward. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
Yes,
May we have your name for the record, please?
sure. My name is Maura Weston. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I am here tonight on behalf of my family. My husband, 2 sons, and I live at 16 Auburn Street, which is directly across the street from the applicant. I'll preface my remarks again by echoing comments of others. It's a lovely couple. They invited us to their home. We've enjoyed sampling their beer and meeting them, and certainly understand their passion for brewing and their desire to pursue that passion as a business. However, we don't believe that their property is an acceptable location for that endeavor, and would encourage you to reject their request. Based on the application, we believe that the commercial production and distribution of beer from their property violates the intent of the ordinance. As Mrs. Rosenberger pointed out, the purpose of the ordinance is really about kind of the evolution of technology, electronics, and telecommunications, enabling people to work from home with an in-home business. And we believe that the proposed commercial production of beer is not consistent with the purpose of that ordinance, and that gives us concern. We also believe that this could have an adverse impact on our neighborhood, and this is quite concerning. It's a historic area, it's family friendly, and a densely populated residential neighborhood. Although I'm not totally clear on the amount of beer that they're brewing now in their basement for friends and family, as they say in their application that they intend to brew 1 BBL twice a month. I believe that is the equivalent of 84 gallons a month, or over 1,000 gallons a year. My belief is that that amount of brewing may in fact invoke the need for licensure as a beverage manufacturer under state law. And that designation as a beverage manufacturer raises, I think, a lot of questions. And when we talk about precedent, do we really believe that allowing the operation of a beverage manufacturer in a densely populated, family-friendly neighborhood is an appropriate precedent to establish? And I do believe that that is a slippery slope, and that raises concern for us. That is our primary concern. We do believe that alternatives exist. Again, Mrs. Rosenberger pointed out, we wish them well and hope that they're successful in their commercial endeavor as a beverage manufacturer, but there are places within our greater community where that interest can be pursued without detriment to our neighborhood. So again, we just urge you to take this into consideration. We appreciate the opportunity to be heard and urge you to not set this precedent by granting the request for the special exception. And I thank you for your time.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Please come forward. Yep. Go.
It's gonna be a race.
We
to
got
the
we
finish
got
line.
we got a race here. Everybody will get a chance. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but?
Yes, I do.
May we have your name, please?
Yes, my name is Lacey Colligan. I live at 38 Ridge Road. I'm not in a butter, but I live down the street. I'm here to oppose the appeal for a special exception to the SR zone for a brewery meeting criteria for major home occupation. As mentioned, the purpose of the home occupation descriptions was because of the advancing use of technology and people working from home. And in the zoning code, I could find no clear regulations, obviously, about specifically brewing operations. However, parts of what will be done seem to be described in section 28.530, the big chart with the zones and the specifics of what can be done. And first, the warehousing, wholesale storage, and distribution facility uses are specifically restricted to the industrial zone. Second, the food processing and the bottling, so maybe canning of beverages, is specifically restricted to the industrial zone. And it seems, I hope this seems like a great endeavor, and I hope that they're very successful. But I could see why an alternative space in the industrial zone that would meet cleanliness standards would be appropriate. And again, I believe this is a dangerous precedent to set for home occupations in single residential zones. And I think there'll be some impact on the neighborhood. I've read about odors. You guys say there's no odors, I believe you. But you don't know how big the brewery will become and how successful and how it will grow. So thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Rosenberger. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but?
Yes, I do.
Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, my name's Eric Rosenberger. I live with my family at 29 Auburn Street. I have a few concerns, but before I get to that, I want to congratulate this couple. I think it's a wonderful idea they have, and I wish them a lot of luck. I've been involved, owned, and managed a number of small businesses in the last 80 years, and it's not an easy business. My feeling is that they should do it where it's legal to be done. Move to a commercial zone. They'll make their life a lot easier. I've got a couple of concerns. One is safety. It hasn't been brought up that there are two times a day, this Concord school bus comes by and picks up elementary children across the street from where this brewery is scheduled to open. Also, the high school students drive by all the time in the morning and in the afternoon, both going to Bishop Brady and going to Concord High School. Every time they pass, they're going to be able to see this. I do not agree with the folks that say you won't be able to see it. I've gone out, in fact, this morning I did it again. I went out and looked to see if it's visible. Sure, there are some trees there, but there's a lot of space between the trees and the home. This thing's going to be very visible. And people are going to say, young children are going to say, what is that? And the word will get out, it's where you make beer. But what we do with children, what we try to do, is try to have them aware and to be in a place that's safe. Well, if beer is hitting them all the time as they walk by in their conscious or subconscious mind, and it's in a location that's supposed to be safe, that says to them, this is safe, beer is okay. Well, it's against the law at that age. It sets a wrong signal to these children. I think to the older children who are driving past it, since it's going to be visible, it sets up a potential for let's go and get a free beer. Maybe we can find one. Maybe they'll leave the door open. I think it's a setup for disaster for these kids. B.F. Skinner has told us years ago that decisions are made based on consequences, based on short-term gratification and consequences. The short-term gratification is, in this case, is trying to make something work and to use it sort of as a trial. As my understanding, this is a one-year commitment. But then you look at the long-term consequences. Well, that's a different issue. Number one, is it a commercial enterprise or not a commercial enterprise? Of course it's a commercial enterprise, because if it doesn't work, they won't keep it up after a year, so I read. And they say they're going to sell it. I think it's an experiment. Is an experiment something that an exception to well thought through ordinances, something that should be considered? I don't think so. It's an experiment for profit. What does this really mean as far as consequences go? What will come next? Will we have a bunch of Airbnbs? Will some of us turn our homes into retirement or try to turn our homes into retirement facilities? Maybe even a casino. We could ask for that. I also think that this is going to decrease home values. And I think that's a consequence that's not attractive. So my summary is, and my advice based on a lot of experience I've had, good and bad, is they should not start with this controversy getting in their way. They should bite the bullet, go to a commercial zone, and then they can do what their dreams, what they're hoping to do, without the influence of this ordinance exemption. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Please come forward. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
I do.
Would you identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Carol Brooks. I'm a resident of 11 Auburn Street. I've lived there since 1986 and have enjoyed the residential neighborhood a great deal. Raised our family there and continue there in our retirement, my husband and I. My concern with this application is that it's a business use in a residential area, and it's that simple. I looked at the application and then also at the regs, and the ability, if this is approved, for the applicant to have a sign is there. The applicant has said that they did not think they would need a sign, but my concern is if this is approved as a business in the residential zone as the category that it is, that a sign could later be asked for because it's allowed. And I think the sign would swear with the residential character of the neighborhood. And just briefly, I would be concerned about decrease in property values because of a business being in the location.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Will you please sign the sign-in sheet?
Sure.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? We do have some letters. Several letters came in yesterday and today. We have one from Patricia Murphy and Robert Blair. These records are all in the record, and I believe all the board members have seen them. The Murphys are opposed to the request for a special exception. They're concerned about whether or not the structure will be temporary. They're concerned about smells. They're concerned about whether or not this complies with the rationale for permitting this large-scale home occupation vis-a-vis electronic communications as opposed to a brewery. And they request, if we grant conditions that the special exception expire in 18 months and that the temporary structure should be clad to match the house. We have a letter from Maura Weston and Jeffrey Bartlett. I will not summarize that because Ms. Weston testified. The record is on the record. Or excuse me, the letter is on the record. We have a letter from Anna Krasinski and Simon Raitt. They wrote to express their full support for the application. And they believe it would have minimum impact on the surrounding residents. We have an email from Andrew Janess, who is lives at 17 Auburn Street. They strongly support an approval of the permit. We have a letter from Teresa and Eric Rosenberger. Again, I will not summarize that because both Mr. and Mrs. Rosenberger did testify. And that's it for letters. Any comments from code enforcement?
Yes, excuse me, Chair, there are two others that I forwarded, but they came in later. So there's one from Peter Bloom, who is writing to express his support for his neighbors. He believes it will contribute positively to our community's character. Confident they will design and manage the shed responsibly. Respectfully urge you to grant the variance. And there is also one from George Roussos?
Roussos, yes.
Roussos. Expressing concern about the request. Lived in the neighborhood 50 years. Cannot recall any home that contained any commercial use. Would be the first business operation. Be incompatible with the character. Not consistent with the spirit of the zoning ordinance. And request the conditions of no sales of beer on site, no distribution of beer on site, no sign relating to the occupation, and maintaining existing or equivalent landscape screening on Auburn Street frontage. And then I would just add some words directly from the zoning ordinance. First being the definition of a major home occupation, which is a home-based business, which may involve limited external evidence of business use, such as the use of a portion of accessory buildings for the business use, the employment of persons not residing on the property, light shipping and delivery of manufactured, assembled, or repaired products. A major home occupation shall not be permitted if it is determined that it may have a significant adverse impact on the surrounding neighborhood. In order to avoid adverse impacts, the major home occupation shall not be authorized unless it meets all of the following. The use is subordinate to the house. No more than 25% of the floor area of the dwelling unit, plus no more than 250 square feet of the floor area within the accessory building is allowed to be devoted to the use. The proprietor of the home occupation is the owner-occupant of the property. No more than 4 persons are allowed to be employed in the business use. The lot which is established conforms to the minimum dimensional standards of the ordinance. Retail sales are limited to the incidental sales of goods which are manufactured, assembled, or grown on the site, or products which are directly related to the goods or services rendered by the major home occupation. The use shall not create excessive traffic, noise, fumes, odor, dust, vibration, heat, glare, or electrical interference. To assure that such conditions are met, additional conditions limiting the hours of operation may be established as a further condition of the approval. Parking shall be as required, or parking shall be provided as specified in Article 28(7). And in this case, there is no parking requirement because the shed is too small to trigger the parking requirement. A single on-premises sign is allowed, which identifies the business. And the use is not one of the following, which is the boarding of animals, uses involving parking, dispatching, or storage of commercial vehicles, automobile or small engine repair or maintenance, welding, etc., warehousing and distribution uses, and uses which generate more than 20 vehicle trips per day based upon the trip generation manual.
Thank you very much.
So any major home occupation that meets all those criteria is eligible for a special exception?
Yes.
If it doesn't, it would need a variance?
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
But the criteria for a special exception also apply.
Correct.
Right.
So
If
this
it
just
doesn't,
gets
if it doesn't meet any of those, then it is not a major home occupation, and they would instead be applying for a variance for a commercial use.
Understood. Any other questions from the board?
Another question, if you know, because there a couple of the speakers kind of made a point that their review of the code was that a major home occupation is primarily designed for telecommuters or because of technology allowing people to work from home, kind of suggesting it's the intent of that is more along the lines of like an office type of work. Or I was trying to look while they were talking, but I couldn't find anything. Is there anything in the code that speaks to that you know of?
Yes, so 28.530 home occupations, item A lists the purpose. However, the then definition of major home occupation completely defies the purpose.
Oh, I see. So it's sort of in the purpose section, which is just describing why we have this, but it's not in the specific criteria necessarily. Okay, I got it. I see it now. Thank you.
There's definitely a disconnect between the verbiage of the purpose and the definition of major home occupation.
Good catch.
Well, I kind of see the connection because you could work at home doing something that might not be office work, but it allows you to work at home when you otherwise, I guess.
Very good. Mr. Williamson, Ms. Adams, would you like to offer factual clarification in response to anything you've heard? Yeah, come on back up so you can do another star turn on public access television.
Don't want to take much more of your time. The math on the max quantity was slightly off. What I stated was max 2 batches a month, which would be 31 times 2, 62 gallons a month at absolute max. Again, I've brewed once in the last 2 months. Did you have anything to in mind?
I think we spoke already before about how some of these concerns, there aren't going to be signs, there aren't going to be trucks, you can't see it from the road. Because we also care, because we also have small kids. Of course, we're concerned about kids having access to alcohol. We live in our house where they would be small children. So safety is a top concern. That's why Steph included like a really close-up picture of a lock in there, because obviously I understand the concern very well. I have the same concerns.
Yeah,
and that's why we address them.
On the kids' point and Mr. Rosenberger's, I'd completely flip what Mr. Rosenberger is saying and say this is showing kids that you can have a passion, pursue it, and make your dreams come true. That's the way I see it, not a negative.
And we wouldn't be advertising beer on our house or in any visible part of our house. There was another question about traffic. I think we addressed that earlier.
Oh yeah, we can fit 3 cars in our driveway wide and then 2 inside the garage. I would not ever want to be loading or unloading on Forest.
I do agree. I can't remember who was mentioning, cars sweeping down Auburn. I have that same concern because, our kids are on their bikes. I'm always like, watch for cars. But we're not welcoming random passersby to come drive to our house and buy beer.
So what we're looking at now, that's the view from Auburn Street into
That's the left side of our yard.
Yeah, so
you're
if you look,
facing it.
if
If
you
you
look
turn
underneath
right,
the trees.
that you would see our house if you could see through them.
That's
if you
Auburn
keep
Street.
going down the street, you could see part of our house. Yep. That's the yard on the left.
There is, so the gap that people were talking about is this gap
in
here.
the corner, yeah. But
So I mean, yeah, you if you were looking for it, you might catch the corner of it.
but it's going to be on the right hand side of that back
The
corner.
picture, the bottom picture on the front cover of the presentation is where the front of the container would be, facing out.
Mind if I get up?
Okay. No, not at all.
This goes back farther. You can't see it because there's a porch that comes out, but the yard goes back. So where the container would be is actually kind of right here. So you might be able to see like a corner of a shed, I guess.
We have no current shed.
We have no current shed.
And all I'll close with is, I'm glad we have so many investors to just go full haul instead of getting our toes wet here.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. And this has been so great. It's so nice to live in a place where everybody cares about the neighborhood and so many people, at the end of the day, this was a really cool experience. So thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Whether here, I
Oh,
have a
sorry.
question for
Yep,
Code
sure.
enforcement. Would it matter if this was not a detached activity, and if, for example, if they wanted to set up their operation in a garage, would it still be?
It would. That's a very good question. What triggers this as being a major home occupation versus a minor is the use of the accessory structure. They could do everything that they're doing that was in the attached garage or part of the house.
Or if they put it,
It would be permitted outright. Yeah, there would be no need for a special exception. Yeah.
But also it is triggered by the fact that they're gonna sell it. If you were just doing it.
No, it's not. The only thing that triggers this is that they are using the 169 square foot shed.
So if they were gonna use the shed but only keep it for themselves, they would still need.
No. If they wanted to put up, they can put up a shed without doing anything.
And
If they wanted to put up the shed and brew beer for their own use,
For their own
they
use,
could.
they'd be fine, right?
Yep.
It's just selling it that's gonna
It's
be an
the fact-
occupation.
The health and
Yeah.
safety approval. Yeah.
But I guess my question is, and I'm not telling you how to run your business or achieve your hopes and dreams, but if this operation were set up in the garage, they wouldn't need to come here this evening.
Correct. As long as the garage is attached to the house.
But it would still need to be health and safety approved. And
Understand.
that is the
The beer still
hang-up.
tastes good brewed in the basement. I just want to be able to reach a bit further up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That may be an all-time record for a special exception, I think.
It's fermenting.
Yes, it's developing slowly. With that, we'll declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed, and I invite the board to, we have a request for a special exception for a major home occupation. We've heard, I won't summarize all the detail, but it's for a brewery, and we have some neighbors in favor and some opposed. I'm going to start with Ms. Spector Morgan. How do you see this?
I don't have any problem with this. I hear the concerns of the neighbors, I do. But a special exception is a permitted use as long as the conditions are met. Granting this special exception does not set any sort of precedent for other special exceptions in the neighborhood or anywhere else. And there's nothing in the ordinance that clearly limits major home occupations to electronic or telecommunication occupations. In fact, the ordinance specifically lists things that can't be approved as a home occupation, and this doesn't fall into that. As we've discussed, if this exact same thing was being done in the garage or in the basement, they wouldn't need to be here. If it was being done in the shed and they weren't selling it, they wouldn't need to be here. So it's sort of the confluation of all those factors that brings them here. And I think they meet all the special exception criteria. So I would impose the conditions of approval that they've offered. No non-owner employees, no sales on site, no signs, but only because they've offered them and because I think it would give the neighbors some peace of mind in the event that the property transferred.
Mr. Davey?
No further comment.
Mr. Winters?
I essentially agree. I think thinking about the criteria, the only criteria that might, be a borderline is whether this use is appropriate for this location. And I think, for this particular location, if there was a sign, if there was going to be sales on premises, if there was going to be, multiple, or, trucks coming, deliveries, then I think I would be more concerned. But, given the applicants, and I don't think it's really, there hasn't been much contrary testimony that it's going to be, there's not going to be any signs, there's not going to be any trucks coming in and out, it's just going to be his personal vehicle doing the transportation, there's not going to be any sales on site. So with those conditions, and as has been said, and we get this a lot from neighbors or the public, is that it does run with the land, but if somebody else, say, wanted to brew twice as often or wanted to put up a sign, then that special exception would not apply to them. So the slippery slope is really minimized because it's only limited to this specific request based on their representations.
Mr. Monahan?
Yeah, I think that I'm not rushing to yes on this because I think, while it's well intended, they're trying to accomplish it. I do think, and I'm exaggerating here, but putting a manufacturing facility in the side yard is not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
Okay. My feeling is that the question is not the use, but the special exception. The city has already explained their view on that, and I have no quarrel with what they've said. And I think they meet the requirements for special exception that were listed and that they went over. So I would support a motion in favor of granting the special exception. Would anyone care to make a motion?
I will make a motion. I move to grant the special exception for a major home occupation at 21 Auburn Street because all of the criteria under section 2893B2 of the zoning ordinance have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposed findings of fact as the board's findings of fact with the following conditions of approval. The approval is limited to the restrictions identified in the application and the representations made by the applicants here tonight, including but not limited to: there shall be no non-owner employees, there shall be no sales of beer on site, and there shall be no business signs associated with the home occupation.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
The vote is 4-1. Mr. Monahan in the minority. The special exception is granted. And that brings us to the next case this evening, which is case 4.2 on the agenda, number 0264. Laura Smart requests approval for a variance from section 2824H, multiple principal uses on a single lot, to permit 2 single-family detached dwellings on the same lot at tax map lot 201P111, addressed as 4 Village Street, Pennacook, in the Urban Transitional UT District. This is not a development of regional impact. And is anyone here from? Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
I do.
May we have your name for the record, please?
My name is Lawrence Greenmore. I am Mrs. Smart's brother. The reason we're asking for this variance is, as we all aware, affordable housing for elderly in New Hampshire is pretty tight. My mother currently lives over an hour away in a maintenance-heavy house. It's getting to the point where it's taking a lot of maintenance to maintain that. So the reason we wanted to do this was we were trying to do this as a family. My sister's currently out of the state on a work assignment, so we're doing this as a family, so I volunteered to come and speak.
Can you speak up just a little because of the music?
Okay.
Yeah.
Pull the microphone maybe a little bit closer.
So the reason we're asking for this variance is to provide housing for my elderly mother on her property. And still afford her some independence. My sister had that house built in 1992. She's lived there since. The reason we're asking for the variance is due to the roof lines and driveway accesses and so forth. There is no current way to attach it to the house where it would be even remotely aesthetically, it wouldn't look right. So we're asking for a variance just to have that 26 by 28 dwelling just detached a little bit off to the side.
So is it, I'm trying to, is it, you're building a new structure?
Yes.
And maybe I didn't see this in the materials, but where's the new structure going to be?
There was a map drawn out on it. It's it would be your bottom.
It's a little
corner.
tricky to read that drawing.
Okay. Do you mind going up and just showing up the?
Although we do have a rendition of it.
Oh, is that okay?
It would be in this location here.
So
15-foot setback from the road, 5-foot setback from here.
Wow.
As you can see, there's no way to attach it with the roof lines. The way the house is now, we've gone over.
So you're going to meet all the setbacks there?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be a small 26 by 28 right here.
It's going to have its own driveway?
No. It's just if you try to attach it to the house, you'd actually lose your driveway.
Oh, so you'll just park on the same driveway, or they'll park on the street?
Same driveway, same parking, everything. It's just if you try to attach this, you would actually lose your driveway, so you wouldn't have a driveway anymore. So that was the reason.
Can we see a view of this from the street at street level?
And while Anne Marie's pulling that up, can you tell us why you can't attach it in the back?
There's not enough room in the back. And you would have a roof line coming down, and then you couldn't run it this way because you don't have enough room back that way. So you'd have a roof line coming down and a roof line coming down meeting.
Are you the builder, or?
No.
Do you have a builder contracted, or?
Not contracted. We were waiting to see if the variance before we moved forward with that. We've had talks with builders. I'm sorry.
Couldn't remember the address. It's Pennacook, isn't it?
Yes, Pennacook.
It comes up as Concord. Let's see. Is that it? Is it going to come up?
Next month, we're going to have chamber music.
Yeah, right there.
Person. Plop them right there. Is that the front of it?
Yes, that's the front.
Okay. That's the front. And so you're going to build it right here?
Off to the, it'd be actually over to the right here. Yeah, and just in this corner right here.
Behind the utility pole?
Yes.
And it won't be attached to the house at all?
No.
Thanks, yeah.
Is this?
What are the dimensions again?
It's a 26 by 28.
One level?
No, it's going to be a garage underneath for her car, and then her living quarters will be above it.
Okay.
So this would be larger than an ADU?
Yeah.
On the
Oh,
second?
because of the two-story?
Well, no, the footprint.
It's 728 square feet.
So it's actually smaller than 80.
Yeah, I just figured it out, yeah.
What was the 80?
ADU 750,
Minimum 750 or
maximum.
It's like 600 to 750 or something?
So max is 750, minimum is 600, which is actually violates state statute
Right.
because state statute doesn't allow us to have anything less than 750, so.
And we have nothing more than 7, so it has to be exactly 750.
It has to be exactly
Okay.
750.
Okay.
We got more angels dancing in the head of more pins here. So, okay. Answer that question. Any other questions from the board? Can you tell us, so the conditions of the lot are the configuration of the house and the location of the driveway? Is that the issue in your mind?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Well, the fact that you have a garage, do other people have garages on that street?
Yeah.
You don't have a garage there now, do you?
No, there's no garage currently. And unfortunately, I live in a different town. I actually have the same building detached, but my mother-in-law is living in there currently. So I couldn't help out on this, so that's why we're trying to do this as a family. Just
They didn't want to be roommates?
right, yeah. Mine's, yeah, it's pretty small, so. But yeah, it's, you know, it's just tough. Her house is getting to the point where it's just the maintenance is too much, and it's more than an hour away. At least there, I'm actually only a half an hour away if something is needed, and my sister is right there. So that's was the whole premise of it.
If it were attached, it would just be an ordinary ADU, correct?
Well, it would have to meet, so to be attached, it has to have a common wall and it has to have a door.
Between the two?
Yeah.
Okay.
To meet the criteria.
But couldn't it just attach to the breezeway?
As long as there was a door between the habitable areas of both.
But it doesn't have to have a common wall. I thought we saw a breezeway case before.
Well, I mean, the little entry
We did,
there.
right?
Oh, yeah.
There was a question about breezeways before, and it struck me that the city interpretation was kind of far-fetched, frankly. All right, anything else you'd like us to know?
No, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who'd like to be heard in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in opposition to it? Any comments from code enforcement?
None.
With that, we'll close the public testimony public portion of the testimony, and I'm going to invite Mr. Winters to give us the benefit of his wisdom on this one.
This kind of pains me because I mean I think when we do look at the new zoning, or I should say when the powers that be look at the new zoning, I mean I'd love to see something like this allowed as a matter of right. Because I think there are some localities or even some states that have put into place allowing detached units in almost any zone, and it goes a long way to improving the number of units on the market and the affordability. But having said that, under our current code, I'm having a hard time seeing how there's anything unique to this lot that you could just put up a second house. And while I certainly understand the difficulty of aging and wanting to maintain that independence, so I feel really bad for the applicant, but I just have a hard time seeing anything unique here that would allow them to put up a second unit on one lot.
Very good. Mr. Davey, how do you look at it?
Am I acting on this one?
Oh, no, I don't think
You're not acting? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we always value your opinion, but all right, I'll go over to Mr. Monahan. I apparently want to include the whole town in this.
I think I see uniqueness here because of the uniqueness of the structure and the inability to attach. And I think so I'm inclined to find what is for it.
Mr. Waller.
I too, I raised a question about a garage. I thought maybe that might be a sort of a backdoor way of an additional need for that property. A reasonable use should the neighbors have garages. He doesn't. Perhaps that could be a consideration in addition to Mr. Moynihan's observation about the roof lines being compatible with an attached arrangement.
Ms. Spector-Morgan?
I'm not convinced it can't be attached, which is what I'm struggling with, which, you know, hangs me up on the hardship. I understand they don't want to attach it. I think it might not look right, but I'm not convinced it can't be. And I'm stunned that it meets the setbacks. That's sort of what I've been struggling with through the whole thing. I guess I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it, provided it was approved with the same conditions that we normally approve these things with, that one of the units on the property always be occupied by the owner, you know, the same sort of ADU requirements that we generally have. But it's a small lot in a tight area. But, I mean, if it dimensionally fits, it dimensionally fits. So I think I could get to yes.
Very good. I'm struggling with this one because I think the request is reasonable. The problem is that the materials that have been presented to us aren't enough information for me to conclude that the reasons why they say they don't want to attach it are justifiable. We have to make that assumption. Now, that being said, perhaps the conditions that Ms. Spector-Morgan mentioned would be sufficient in my mind for granting, given that I can see no negatives in this for anyone, really. So, although I'm on the fence, I'm gonna let Ms. Spector-Morgan push me over.
That never happens.
with the clarity of her reasoning and the elegance of her presentation. Okay, would anyone care to make a motion?
I'll start off by motion to approve.
All right, do you want to cite some criteria here?
I was hoping that, I've got that. I got that. Well, ultimately, oh, you want me to read this?
Why not?
Yeah, okay.
Let's
I'll second so that he can.
yeah, let's.
So I move to
Toss
grant
it
the
in.
variance from section 28.2-4H, multiple principal uses on a single lot to permit 2 detached dwellings on the same lot at 4 Village Street, because all the criteria under RSA 674:33 have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposal findings as the board's findings of fact.
May I propose a friendly amendment in the form of conditions of approval?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I would propose that the ADU, or the new dwelling unit, the second dwelling unit that is being built, must be occupied. One of the units on the property must be occupied by the owner of the property. The new unit that is being created may only be occupied as a principal place of residence, and neither of the units can be converted to a condominium form of ownership.
And I agree with that.
So that's incorporated into the
Yes.
into the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
All right, the vote is not unanimous. Mr. Winters, was it?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Winters voted in the negative. The variance is granted. That brings us to our next case this evening, which is listed as 4.3 in the agenda, 0265 in the city records. Cheryl Ann C. Wright requests approval for variance from section 2841D, minimum yard requirements, table of dimensional regulations, to permit a minimum 11-foot front setback and a minimum 6-foot west side setback, where 25 and 15 feet are the minimum front and side setbacks required, respectively, to allow for the expansion of the west unit of an existing duplex at tax map lot 053P38, addressed as 104-106 Merrimack Street, Pennacook, in the medium-density residential RM district. Again, not a development of regional impact. Get somebody here from Ms. Wright?
I just figured I'd go right to the street view while I was here.
Why not? Would it be possible for our IT department to make it possible for you to manage the screen from where you sit there?
I
or-
can ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe be able to switch back and forth?
Sure.
So that,
It's good exercise for me.
well, but you know, yeah, I'm sure.
You couldn't do the rockin' race, so yeah.
Yeah.
Could make Andrew.
Professional obligations kept you from running this evening, I understand.
Exactly.
Yeah. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Would you identify yourselves for the record, please?
My name is Cheryl Ann C. Wright.
I'm Brad Topolowski.
What would you like us to know?
I own the duplex, and the situation why we're asking for the variance is because my parents are 84 and 85, and rather than them going to a nursing home, we want to take them in. We presently live 2 houses up, but we need to, we're going to all move into this apartment, and it's small. And so in order to do that, and they can't do stairs. So there is a bedroom downstairs now, which you can see off to the right. It's very small, but my foundation person guy is concerned about the foundation that is on. He's recommending to redo that, tear that down and redo it properly on a foundation with a little bit larger addition to make the living quarters a little bigger for all of us, because it's probably only about 1,000 square feet total in the whole site of that apartment. That'll give us a little bit more room to move around in the kitchen and the existing living room. It's tight. So what we're asking, because the house was built, I've gone back, I think, to 1865. So as you can see, it doesn't meet the 25 feet setback as it is the house. Now, in order to hit that 25 feet setback, it would be being built behind the house. So we would like to be able to attach it, the addition to the house, to make room for my folks to move in with us. And add a 2-car garage in that. Detached. The garage will be detached, but we'd like to put a 2-car garage because of all of our vehicles. In that whole neighborhood, there are barns and garages and homes that are much bigger than this home. So we're asking for that addition. It's going to be set back more than the house, but if it could not go back as far as 25 feet to make it aesthetically look right from the road. This driveway will no longer exist, which actually is a better safety measure, that we want to move it further over to where the garage is going to be, because right across the street from there is very heavily trafficked by the neighbor that lives across the street with vehicles coming in and out. And so it actually will be safer if our driveway is more west. So I don't know what else to say. I don't see any safety problems. I don't see it being harmful or aesthetically not meeting the rest of the neighborhood. I don't know what else to say, if anybody has any questions.
The garage would be a completely new structure, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why you couldn't reconfigure or resite it so that it was within the setback? Did it just not fit?
I'll let my husband speak on that.
If the garage was moved forward towards the street, there'd be no parking in the driveway for the cars.
I was thinking actually moving it away from the street to get it within the setback, the front yard out of the front yard
Moving
setback.
it back further?
Yeah.
That would put the back corner more into,
It would be on the abutting neighbor's property.
the back
Because
corner
of the
is.
slant
It slants.
Yeah.
of the
The
property
back
line.
corner right now is, with the proposed garage, would be 6 foot into the 15 foot. If we went back further, it would be very close to the property
It
line.
would be more.
It looks on your drawing as if you were to move it closer to the house and back a bit, you might be able to fit it in. Did you try that and find that wasn't satisfactory?
No, we didn't, because we chose an 8-foot span between the two for a possibility of a later date, if ever needed. There'd be enough room for a handicap ramp, if needed.
Yeah. Because of their age, they are 84 and 85.
You know, right now,
so
it's not needed, but if it was needed, we want
It
that,
would give room.
we're thinking for that space.
Understood.
How big is your garage?
The garage right now proposed is 26 by 30.
Or is it 28?
They're 20.
I was gonna bring the architect's drawing and I didn't.
We have,
Sorry.
I think we have.
Do you have it? Okay.
So it's
Never go anywhere without your architect.
Yeah.
28 by 30?
28 by, I believe, 30.
That's a little bit larger than the normal garage, isn't it?
28.
The only reason why is that we're putting an inside stairway in to go up the stairs for Cheryl's genealogy, her little work area.
It's gonna be my hobby room upstairs.
And where's the duplex? Is it the shaded area on the left?
There's two duplexes side by side. That one is ours, that's 104, 106. And I've lived in the neighborhood, I bought the house in 1988, and I lived in that house, I moved in 1999, 2000. So I've been in the neighborhood for 25 years, and I live 2 houses up from there.
Which, if anybody's looking for a house for sale.
It will still be a duplex,
Yes.
It will still be a duplex,
but you're
yes.
enlarging one unit, which is the one that you and your,
Yes.
yeah.
Do we want to take my
I'm just
parents
trying to,
in?
so you own the building?
Pardon?
You own the building, you just live there?
I do own it, and I will live there. Yeah.
So how much total living space are you adding,
Living space,
approximately?
You want my phone?
700.
By pushing out towards, into what the current driveway is?
Yes.
Yes, it's gonna, from the actual building, not that little building on the right side, but from the main structure over is 28 feet, and it goes back 30.
No, you're talking about the garage now.
No, I'm talking about
Would the extension,
space.
would the home extension, would that alone be into the setback, or it's just the garage that's getting into the
No,
setback?
the front of the
Oh, it's
addition
Oh, the
would
front
be,
setback.
from, I think, 25 to 13.
But the side.
But the side setback.
The side,
Side setback is only in the rear corner of the garage
got it, so it's, oh, got it.
because of the angle of the property line.
So, and the front setback won't be invaded any more than it currently is, it'll just be extended a little.
It'll go, step back about 3 to 4 feet from the corner.
Because of, there's electrical meters on the corners, so we're going to
We're not gonna
step
pay
back.
for them to be moved.
We're not gonna move.
Right.
Is that a vacant lot immediately to the right? You said it's owned by someone else, but
It's owned by somebody else, but it's not being used presently.
it has no building on it.
No, well, it has a
Concrete
foundation, a slab.
It used to
that
be Revco,
Used to be a warehouse that caved with snow. Oh, gosh, a long time ago.
Ah, so it was part of the old Rivco complex?
Yep,
I see.
yeah.
I represent the owners of the lot next door.
We can have you
Okay,
up
so
later.
This is Merrimack Street in Pennacook, not in,
It's in Pennacook.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
all right.
not-
I was thinking it was
There is a Merrimack
closer to
Street in
downtown,
Concord,
yeah.
sorry.
I was
Should
thinking
fix
the same
that.
thing.
Any other questions? Anything else you'd like us to know?
I don't think so.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in opposition to it? Please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening. Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
May we have your name, please?
You may. My name is Eli Leno. I'm an attorney with Bernstein Schur in Manchester, representing 77 Merrimack Street LLC, which is the owner of 82 Merrimack Street as well as 77 Merrimack Street. If you could go to the GIS overhead. Sorry, we just went through the fact that you can't control this.
I'll figure it out for next time.
Okay.
We see an opportunity for improvement in our
You
infrastructure.
do. Absolutely see an
Streamlining the
opportunity for
operations.
improvement. Let me get there.
While she's doing that, of course, this board is knowledgeable of the fact that they need to meet each of the criteria of 674-33 to receive a variance. I think from the presentation materials provided, the use as a duplex is probably reasonable, but beyond that, I'm not sure we heard evidence on any of the other criteria. From our standpoint as the most directly affected abutting neighbor on this 3.5 acre parcel here. So you'll see that we have sort of this funny E-shaped, wrench-shaped parcel directly abutting theirs. In terms of the public interest in health, safety, and welfare, there's a possibility directly that our sight lines will be reduced here by moving into our side lot line as well as further encroaching on the front lot line. And then in terms of spirit of the ordinance, preventing overcrowding is in the public interest. There's case law on that, and this is away from the plan you've seen to just build every square foot of the front of this lot. Substantial justice balancing test. If you could go to the satellite overhead, they in their in the application, there's an overhead showing what they're. Yeah, that's fine. So you can see from this, in their application, they already say that because our property is not developed currently, it'll be a harm to us. So they clearly already aren't respecting the lot lines, as evidenced by the fence that encroaches down at the bottom left or top left corner of their lot. You see a fence at the corner that's on our property without permission, as well as the vehicle, trailer, or RV is parked over the lot line. I went out to the site today and that appears to be in the same position currently. So in terms of balancing the rights of abutters with the goals of the property owner here, they're directly encroaching on my client's rights here in the current use of the property and look to encroach further on the setback requirements. They've provided nothing to say that our property values would not be diminished. Clearly, the further we build toward the lot line, the fewer things we can do when we decide to build on ours. And special characteristics, this is a duplex that looks like the other duplexes in the neighborhood. There's really nothing to separate here. The fact that it was built in the 1880s is of course the reason why there's no issue with them already being in the front setback and on the other side setback. Those are pre-existing nonconformities, but that's not a valid reason to expand further into other setbacks. And then I think Mr. Chairman asked the right question with, is there a way to reconfigure this to be conforming? And it sort of looks like this is a first draft of what they want, but not any reason why they need this. And I know we're not in the Boschia test anymore where is there another way they could do this? That's not the law. But here it looks like there are some options. There's plenty of room in the back based on the fact that they're already in the front setback and side setback. And then one question I have is that in 5B, clearly the property is already being successfully used. So there is a use here. Are they now proposing to make this a 3-family? Because that's...
No, their testimony was it would remain a 2-family.
Okay, because again, obviously you can't have an ADU attached to a duplex as the way the zoning's written. So I just understand the testimony that we'd all like to have opportunities for more housing, but right now this just doesn't seem like the proposal that meets any of the criteria.
Could you go back to your first remark about the obscuring your property somehow?
Do you have the plan that they have that shows how they're proposing to develop this?
I do. It's in there somewhere, because I've got it in front of me.
Yeah, so I have it as well, but certainly this is 3.5 acres of developable land. My client, the existing barn there was knocked down in a snowstorm a few years ago, but that doesn't mean our property is no longer developable. Certainly it is, and we'd like to do something with it. The obvious access way, you see the existing sort of stub of a driveway to the right of their property.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's where a homeowner would be using that on a new driveway, that's the street access. If you add all this other stuff, you've just directly cut down the sight lines from my client's property. So that now, rather than being able to see around the house, you're inching up to get past this garage until you're much closer to the road. I think that's a safety issue.
Are you imagining this as a commercial development that you would do?
It's a residential zone, so I was imagining residence.
I see. Okay.
Do you, if you look at their request that it's the front and the side, is your objection primarily with the side setbacks? Because you were talking mostly about how they're encroaching, or do you also have an objection to the front setback request?
I think the objection's the same, in that if you put a building in that corner where the sightline is, the further back they moved it while complying, it's no longer in those sightlines.
So even though they're currently in the front setback, by extending that out to the side more, that's gonna disrupt your
they're in the
sight
front
line.
setback, but they're at the farthest corner of the lot from my client's access.
But your client, I mean, you have a pretty large, and like you called it an E-shaped lot. I mean, do you have multiple points of access from the main road into your lot, or is it?
There is a budding property. The other duplex they mentioned, there's like a shared driveway in that second skinnier slot, not shared driveway, but an access easement of some sort. It's sort of unclear from the title what rights we have to that. And then
You're talking about this?
yeah,
That's your primary point of entry, that in between the two.
it's
other two lots?
unclear that I don't know what rights we have to that from reviewing the title.
Oh, that's the one you don't know about.
So like our best point of access is this driveway that we're discussing, exactly.
And if you were to develop it, where is there a logical point, or where previously was your lot used? Was there multiple?
So you would come off that driveway, main parking was at this darkest bulb there, and then the building was, into the, exactly, but a little bit toward the front of the lot line there. Yeah, sort of in that range. And I think we might have the satellite that shows
How much
it.
frontage would you need to put a residential structure there?
It's an existing non-conforming lot.
Right.
And you're allowed to develop one house as long as you have at least 22 feet of frontage on an accepted city street, which she does.
Oh, even if the prior use was not residential?
Correct. You can build a house. The non-conforming provisions allow for that.
That, something described as 82 Merrimack Street there?
It is, because the frontage down at the corner on Rolfe Street, numeric.
Yes, your client's property is 82.
Yes.
So when you say sight line, you mean, can you explain a little more what you mean by that? Like why?
SIGHT sight line.
Yeah, no,
so
no,
that
yeah.
if we're coming out that driveway, you see right now that the building is removed. We have setbacks for reasons in the zoning ordinance. My client has room to approach the street and look and see what's there. Whereas if you build directly to it, I mean, you've seen the difference between trying to inch out on North Main Street versus in a neighborhood. You have a lot more sort of that vision cone for sight lines.
Okay, so you're talking about cars being able to see the street as they turn in and out.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's one of the reasons for setbacks.
Yeah, right.
There are spots to build all the way to the lot lines, but this is a medium density zone, and we're proposing, if you're encroaching in the front setback and both side setbacks, at some point it stops being medium density. It just doesn't fit the lot.
Other questions from the board? Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
No, I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Any comments from code enforcement?
I have none.
Very good. Ms. Wright, do you have any desire to offer any factual clarification?
I do.
This is your chance.
So, right now, the reason why our motorhome is slightly over their line is because we're doing some work on the land, and we took down a tree, and so we had to move it out of the way to take down a tree. But we have no problem with backing it up 2 more feet, if that will make him happy. And Brad, where'd you go? You had something to say. They actually have 3 access to their land. They have that big wide one, plus over to the left where there's a parking lot where the gray is, they also have access by that way to get back into the property too, because at one point, the owner was talking about putting townhouses all in there with high rises across the street. That to me does not make our neighborhood look like our neighborhood. I'm not asking to make big changes to this lot. I just, if we have to, I don't know what we can do about a handicap ramp down the road if we need one, but it's just, what is it? Just 6 feet into the variance?
Oh, 6 feet, in, yeah. The garage is set back 22 foot from the road. I don't know why that would have any obstruction of pulling out of that other driveway.
But can you help me understand why you can't move that garage closer to the house or make it smaller?
We're going out from the, can we go, well, it doesn't matter. We're going out from the house 19 feet, right?
It's the garage.
19 feet.
Can we make it smaller? Yes, we could. Would it still be within the 15 feet? I'm not sure.
What are the plan dimensions of the garage?
I'm sorry, sir?
What are the plan dimensions of the garage?
28 by 30.
I don't think so. I think
It's 28 by 30. I'm sorry?
25 by 32?
So 25 wide, 32 deep?
Is that's
That was it. That was an old one.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It was changed to 28 by 30. Now, we could reduce it to 28 by 28 or 28 by 26, but I don't know if it's going to take it out of that 15 foot.
And is this like a deck you have in between the two?
it's something the architect drew, but we didn't ask him to.
So if you got rid of that and squished the garage over, you'd be out of the side setback.
Guys are nothing but trouble.
And it would
Great,
be,
causing problems here.
it'd be attached to the house.
Is that something you'd be willing to explore?
The problem with that is that if we ever have to do a handicap ramp, we would have no place to put it.
And also, when you attach a garage to a house, your insurance goes up.
Well, that's not their problem, that's ours.
I mean,
Alas, that's not a zoning issue.
yeah, right.
Although it's important to you, certainly. Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Anything else?
No.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was so quiet over there.
I almost forgot about him.
If the garage were pushed backward, that would improve the sightline issues, but
22 feet from the street, well, to the inside of the sidewalk, plus another 10 feet to the street. That's 32 feet before you hit the street. That's plenty of room to see.
okay. But I
See it
guess I'm
going
also
in and
saying
out.
if it goes backwards, you're going to be
More onto the,
setback, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay. But more in the setback, but more out of the sight line. Right. So,
Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
With that, we'll declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed. We have a request for side lot and front lot line variance. We heard testimony that the existing house, which well predates the zoning ordinance, is already in the front yard setback, and that an extension of it would obviously be so as well. We heard a testimony that the positioning of the garage is partly determined by the desire for handicap ramp. I'm going to start this one with Mr. Wallner. How do you see it, sir?
Okay. Well, I'm not persuaded about the sightline issue. I mean, you're 22 feet back. The house itself has got more of an encroachment than the intended garage. Pushing it back is going to make it even worse because of and I think the hardship issue is the angle of the lot. Do you need an 8-foot gap between the house and the garage? I don't know if I'm persuaded by that. I think a 4-foot gap would accommodate a ramp, and you could still access the garage that way, and it would give you the separation that they seem to want between a garage and the house. But I think you can reduce the side setback by reducing the gap between the house and the garage.
Mr. Monahan?
Yeah, I think as a general matter, we try to be as accommodating as we can in multi-generational housing. And this one, I just think needs some more work. And maybe the young man from Bernstein's Sure could get the parties together to figure it out.
Mr. Witters?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, I mean, I think the front setback, I don't, because they're already in the front setback and they're extending it for, I think, overall a fairly reasonable use. I think we've tended to approve, an extension of existing setback somewhat regularly, but I do agree that the garage pushing that far into the side setback, I'm not sure how necessary that really is, and I do understand the desire to leave the ability for wheelchair access, but I don't exactly know how much total room they need, and I think they could probably make the garage smaller and or move it in closer to reduce that. So I don't know if that means we give them time to try to come up with another plan, or but so yeah.
Well, why don't we talk about that in discussion?
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Ms. Spector Morgan?
I would be willing to grant the variance for the addition to the duplex, but not the garage. I think that the garage can be constructed outside of the side and the front setbacks. And I appreciate that the architect may have drawn something they didn't ask for, but I think that the garage can be moved so it complies. And so I would not be willing to grant a variance for that. And Mark wants to weigh in.
I'm not acting, but I will just note the side setback violations for 86, 88, and 90 Merrimack Street down the way.
Okay.
Just about.
What was that?
That's Mark making a point.
Oh.
Name tag in the central area.
I've told you not to throw that name tag. The garage is 28 by 36, is that what we heard?
Something like that, yeah.
28 by 30.
Okay, 28 by 30. A typical two-car garage is about 24 feet square. Now, they've put a stairway in the back of it, so you could make an argument for 24 by 27 in order to have the stairway function. The point I'm getting at is I think the garage is bigger than it needs to be, which starts to speak to the question of reasonableness. And I think that he probably could contrive a workable ramp looking at it, at the handicap ramp looking at the drawing, with less than 8 feet. It wouldn't be a switchback ramp, it would be a straight run ramp. But I think it could be done. So I would be inclined to, we could approach, from my point of view, we could approach it one of two ways. We could simply deny it, and they could come back with another design, and we could decide whether or not we considered that was significantly different. That's one way of doing it. or we could table. And ask them to make some adjustments to try and reduce the amount of their imposition. I do not, as I believe no one else does, have a problem with the front yard setback on the house. They can't add to the house without being in that, and they're trapped into that by pre-existing conditions they couldn't control. So that's the way I see it. I think the garage could be manipulated, and therefore the setback variance in that case would not be required. I do think a two-car garage is a reasonable use. Would anyone care to make a motion? Either of...
Well, if we table it, they wouldn't have to pay another application fee. So,
I believe that's true. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
and do we table it to a date certain?
Yep.
So we would recess it.
Does it have to be next meeting, or can we consult with the applicant on the date, or should we just say next meeting?
You could say to date certain of the next meeting.
They can always ask to push it out.
And then they could ask to push it out after that, yeah.
Does recessing a table require any additional notice, or?
No, it does not.
Doesn't matter
As
either
long
way.
as you do to date certain.
Okay. And if they do request an extension, then the abutters are notified of that request, right? So they would get notified of the new date.
As long as it's continued at a public hearing, then we never have to renotice.
Right.
Okay. So I would move to.
I think the applicants.
Sure, come on up. This is very naughty.
Can we just agree that we will not let the garage go over?
No, we have to have a drawing.
You have to have a drawing.
Yes, because we would still be talking about a variance for the other part of the house.
But I think what I'm hearing her say is they're withdrawing their request for a variance for the garage.
Yeah.
Oh. At
We,
which
we'll,
point?
we'll make it within the law.
Well, so you mean within the side setback?
Yes.
So you would withdraw your request for the side setback?
We'll make the garage smaller.
So you only need a request for the front setback?
Any reason why I can't do that?
I don't think there's any reason why they can't do that.
Think of anything.
No, I guess not.
Yeah, you could approve the 11-foot front setback and deny the 15-foot.
Yeah, see, sometimes being naughty pays off.
Thank you for listening.
I do know that's a little out of order, but I would
The abutters
request that we
representative.
allow the abutters to speak on that because they made a last minute switch. It's up to you, but.
I don't think that's necessary if there's no variance required. Well, yes, because there's still a variance required.
They're still asking for the front variance.
The other thing we could do would be to recess to a date certain, and they could simply come back with what they're proposing. It causes them a month delay, but it doesn't otherwise affect things.
Well, and Rivco's legal bill. Rivco has to pay the lawyer to come back. Yeah.
Well, it's up to the board.
Yeah, that's not.
Whatever you guys think is fair or the best way to do, I'll go along with.
I'm happy to just grant the variance for the addition. I do think since we've let the applicant speak, if Attorney wants to weigh in, that would
Fair enough.
really be fair.
All right, let's do that. Very good. Mr. Lara, did you want to offer any
I will
further
be,
comments?
very quick and unlawyerly about this. If the variance is only for the house and then doesn't relate to the garage, if the garage is then in that front setback, that would then require another variance
They'd
application.
have to come back.
Just a point of clarity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. If the garage is in any setback, they would have to come back.
Very good, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. We've done our due diligence. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Seems like get the right language here before.
Do you want to do it, or do you want me to do it?
If you have it there, if you don't mind. I don't have it pulled up.
I move to grant the variance from section 28, sorry, don't have my glasses. 28.4, 1D, minimum yard requirements, H table of dimensional regulations to permit a minimum 11-foot front setback where 25 feet are required to allow for the expansion of the west unit of an existing duplex at 104, 106 Merrimack Street, because all of the criteria under 674-33 have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposed findings as the board's findings of fact, because the applicant has withdrawn their request for a variance to construct the garage.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted with the modification cited. And that brings us to the next case, which is listed as 4.40266 in the city records. Great Dane Construction LLC, on behalf of Melissa and David Fancher, requests approval for a variance from sections 2852 duplex or two-family dwelling to allow the conversion of an existing house into a duplex on a lot with 165 feet of frontage where 300 feet is required for a duplex at tax map lot 192P32, addressed as 37 Borough Road, Pennacook, in the medium-density residential RM district. Anybody here for Great Dane Construction? Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
Swear to tell the truth.
May we have your name, please?
Peter Rojas.
Ross?
Rojas.
Rojas.
That's right.
Did you fill out this application?
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Try to put as much detail as possible.
Well, you've already put an app on the teacher's desk here. What would you like us to know?
Well, simply, we'd like to build a 24 by 28, 672 square foot ADU duplex on this property for the mother of the wife, and she's in her late 80s. So we'd be on grade, building it on grade, 3-foot crawl space, nothing fancy, hip, standard gable roof to match the rest of the building for aesthetics. Pretty cut and dry.
And we're looking at...
And the only issue is you don't have sufficient frontage for the lot, right?
Oh, the front. I mean, it's a really big lot. It meets our requirements on all the way around except for the front. I believe it's 300 and it's like 168, which is still pretty set back pretty far.
Can we call up the drawing of the proposed design? And on the site, do we have that on the site? Okay.
Oh, I did forget to add, it would be connected with an 8 by 10 breezeway.
So why isn't this an ADU? Why is this a variance instead of an ADU?
Because there's not enough frontage, and to have an ADU, the lot has to be compliant.
Oh, okay. Does it otherwise meet
Well,
the ADU requirement?
And it has to have the common wall.
And the breezeway does not count as a common wall?
No.
Right.
So if they had a common wall with the door between, and the size of it was within,
Was exactly
it was 750 square feet.
Not a nano
So
square inch
So I
difference.
did ask the board, I mean, I asked someone in zoning at the time if I could connect it without a breezeway. I'm not sure I talked to. They said it would not work.
Well,
I can make it work either way.
you could connect it
Yeah.
without a breezeway?
I can do it without a breezeway. I can make a connecting wall,
And how big would it be?
same size, 24 by 28. I can take out the breezeway.
In other words, move it that much closer to the
Yeah,
house.
there's no issues.
Does that make it 750 square feet on the nose?
On the
I
nose.
doubt it.
The only reason why we did it, because I was told we couldn't do it. So we did that breezeway with 2 sliding doors connecting, so you can go from the driveway to the backyard without interfering going through the house.
So someone told you couldn't connect the two
I forgot
directly?
who I spoke to. I don't have my notes on me.
If it,
May have
if
been a
it-
misunderstanding here.
If it has a common wall, and there's a door in the common wall
Yes.
between the two, and it's
That was my
700,
initial proposal.
and it's 750 square feet,
It's 672.
672.
Then it becomes an ADU, no?
yeah.
But the frontage isn't there.
But then they don't need
No,
it.
the frontage requirement of 300 is for a duplex.
Then they would need a special exception, right?
Yep,
But they don't even need,
yeah, they would need a special exception for an ADU.
Or we leave it where it is and they need a variance.
Uh-huh.
is there, does, are you, or you're the contractor, not the actual
Yeah.
applicant, right?
Yeah.
Are you, do you happen to know, is it important to them that it be owner occupied, or does that not matter to them?
It doesn't matter, it's gonna be owner occupied.
It's gonna be owner occupied?
Yes.
We can condition a variance on it remaining, on the ADU requirements, right? I know we've gone through this.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That way they don't have to come back and start all over.
Yeah, yeah.
To do
And
what we
grant
know
it
we're
as an
gonna do
ADU,
anyway.
because it meets all the,
Well, I don't think we can grant as ADU because they didn't, we can grant their variance now, and if they want to connect a wall, then I don't think they'd have to come back, right?
I mean, they love the idea of having the breezeway now,
Okay,
so.
well, then let's just do it the way you've applied for it.
All right. They've fallen in love with the breezeway. Okay. Any other questions for the appellant? Anything else you'd like us to know? Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here who'd like to be heard in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone who'd like to be heard in opposition to it? Any comments from code enforcement?
Nope.
With that, we'll declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed. We have a request for a variance for a, what exactly was the, duplex or two-family dwelling to allow conversion of an existing house into a duplex. Not two houses. Oh,
right, because they're connecting it. With
Got
the with the duplex, the breezeway, you don't have the same
Really?
common wall with the door in between the habitable spaces.
this town is rule happy. Okay, we've closed the public testimony portion of the hearing, and I am interested in hearing from, who's on board for all of this, I guess. I'll start with Ms. Spector-Morgan.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with this, subject to the usual ADU conditions of approval.
Ms. Winters.
Yeah, I agree. I think the main one that really distinguishes the ADU is that at least one unit remain owner occupied. So that's the specific condition that, I would put on it. I can't remember the exact others, but I'm not sure they're as important for this case.
And the question of frontage, which is actually what brought them here.
Right. That doesn't concern me, given that the house already exists.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's also true that the addition is going to be behind the house, so the question of apparent density is not going to change. Very good. Mr. Monahan.
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Wallner.
Yeah, plus it's a 2-acre lot, it's long and skinny, and as you mentioned, it's being built behind, so I have no problem with it.
I agree with my colleagues. Would anyone care to make a motion?
I will move to grant the variance from section 28-5-2 duplex or two-family dwelling to allow the conversion of existing detached dwelling into a duplex on a lot with 165 feet of frontage, where the 300 feet in the RM district without a sewer is the minimum requirement at 37 Borough Road, because all of the criteria under 674-33 have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposed findings of fact with the additional condition that the use keep at least one unit owner occupied.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted. And that brings us to case, item number 4.5 on the agenda, case 0267, Dariel Puzagera, on behalf of LeBrake Family Living Trust, requests approval for a variance from section 2824H, multiple principal uses on a single lot, to permit two single-family detached dwellings on the same lot at tax map lot 18Z3, addressed as 65 Weir Road in the open space residential RO district. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
Yes.
Would you identify yourselves for the record, please?
I'm Dariel Puzangera. And I'm Chris LeBrake.
Crystal? Oh, Chris. What would you like us to know?
That Chris would like to be converting the detached barn garage into a livable area for her kids.
All right, we're talking about a variance here, so could you speak to the criteria for a variance, please?
The goal of the zoning ordinance would not undermine this. Sorry, this zoning ordinance would not be undermining in this conversion. The conversion would not be congested, overcrowding in the area. It would improve the current situation by making beneficial use to the extra space and improving the integrity of the building.
So you're just taking an existing barn and converting it into a residential structure, basically?
Yes.
Are you, is the current barn, what does it have for utilities? Does it already have electric and sewage, or you're installing that?
It already has electric and water. It hasn't been hooked up to sewage yet.
But it can be hooked, okay.
So which of those structures, is that the barn?
Smaller one, yeah. We call it a barn. It really isn't a barn, but we didn't know what else to call it.
Well, do you know historically, has it ever been used to act as a residence?
Not that I'm aware of. I believe that the people who built it wanted to have their business out of it. They ran a yoga studio in the basement, and I think they wanted to put it there.
So it's not that old of a structure?
90s.
Can you, or where is this? Where in town is it? I can't from the map. It's just,
We're on the northwest end of town. We're right on the Boscawen town line,
okay.
right off of Elm Street.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So nobody knows we're there.
Okay. It's pretty rural.
Yeah.
So it would be a two-family, two different tenants, totally unrelated and so on?
That's not my intention. So I live in the main house. And I would like to have one of my 3 kids live in that structure there so I can feel safer at home, alone. And I envision eventually me moving into that, and then my kids and their family, one of the families moving into the main house. I don't want to leave.
What's the square footage of the barn?
Including the garage area. It's a one-car garage, it's part of it too, and I think the whole thing, downstairs and upstairs, 1,400 square feet. I think that's what you measured.
Yeah.
So is the entire first floor garage and then the second?
No, there's a
One bay.
one-car bay, and then it's been a workshop, storage area, mouse house, you name it.
Mouse house.
You're not brewing beer there.
Is there a street view of that?
Is there what?
Can we get a street view of that or not? I don't know if the.
You won't be able to see it from the street.
woods.
I can pull it up. What's the address again?
660.
65 Ware Road. Sorry.
WEIR. Yeah, it's up a hill and set back, so.
It doesn't even have anything.
Right, we're a dirt road.
Google was afraid to go down there.
How big is your lot?
12.11 acres.
The most we have is the aerial.
Anne Marie, do you happen to know, does the city have any record of how, did they get some kind of variance to build this barn in the first place in the 90s?
Well, a barn is an accessory structure, so.
You can just build it?
Yeah.
Can you speak to the issue of hardship?
I lost my husband a year ago. And so I'm up there all alone. And when people drive up my driveway and I'm home alone, I can't see who that is and I get scared. I would really like either my youngest daughter or my son to live there. Someone. I don't want to leave my house.
How long have you lived there?
20 years.
So the barn was there when you bought it?
Yeah.
What's the minimum lot size in this zone?
Hang on just a second.
The reason I ask the question is whether or not a subdivision would be feasible.
I don't know how you could.
You may not be able to, but it's a question we need to ask.
While she's checking that, is it a flat piece of property? Is it on a?
Oh, God, no.
No.
All hills.
Not to put too fine a point on it.
The
And
minimum
there's,
lot size
I'm
is
assuming
2.
that's no city water or septic, it's a well.
Oh, it's well and septic, yeah.
It's in the open space residential district. The minimum lot size is 2 acres and the minimum lot frontage is 200 feet.
Right, so you could not create a new lot with just that barn on it
Because of the frontage.
that complies.
Correct.
Right.
All right, that answers my question, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Anything else you'd like us to know?
Well,
I don't know.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is there anyone here who would like to be heard in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone here who would like to be heard in opposition? Any more comments from code enforcement? No. With that, we'll declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed. We have a request to convert a barn to a house on a lot that, which would result in 2 principal uses on 1 lot. I'm going to start this one with Ms. Spector Morgan.
I am struggling with the hardship because when we allow this, we generally do it because there is no way to build an ADU that is attached to the house. And that is not the situation here. So while I appreciate the personal hardship, for variance, the hardship has to arise from the land, and I just don't see it here. I think the other variance criteria are probably met, despite the fact that we didn't hear much about them. But I don't see the hardship.
Mr. Winters.
Well, a couple things I'm looking at. One is I mean, if they were coming with no current additional structure and they were building from scratch, but since there's already a barn that really has no other functional use to them or probably to almost anyone, it's not even clear why it was built in the first place. I guess for storage, but usually I think of a barn as being something that it's been there for 100 years or something. So they can't attach the current barn, and so I think it's kind of a reasonable use of the current structure. And I think we do sometimes look at not just the actual land, but the sort of the configuration of the structures on the land. The other thing I'd say is it isn't. I'm looking at the map now. I mean, I guess most of the lots here are pretty big, but it's a very large lot that certainly could support two structures with probably barely anyone ever noticing.
2 separate uses.
Yeah.
Mr. Monahan.
I think even this evening and in other meetings, we've had folks come forward to deal with this multi-generational issue by trying to put use the property that way. And ADUs are, one tool in the toolbox, but I don't think I necessarily look at it as the only tool in the toolbox. So we have, even this evening, approved attached secondary structures, and I think this meets the spirit of the ordinance, and there's an efficiency, as Andrew observed, because there is currently a structure there. The other option which we explored was a a subdivision, but the limited frontage creates a hardship that you couldn't get to a reasonable subdivision as a way to do it. So I'm inclined to support the proposal, the application.
Mr. Wallner?
I agree with Jim in terms of, obviously the go-around would have been a subdivision. We know we can't do that. So I'm inclined to support it. I think there's a hardship right there.
I take seriously the question of whether or not there is a hardship created by the configuration of the lot. On the other hand, where we have been creating de facto ADUs, we have considered any number of things to represent a hardship. Would there be any reason why we couldn't grant this with provision that the owner has to live in one of those houses? You can't have a remote owner.
Makes sense to me. I mean, the city that could enforce that, right? I mean, if we put that on record, that would be a condition.
Yeah,
right?
as long as you make it that it's the property owner. You can't specify who's...
With a relation.
Right, you cannot legally require a relation, but you can legally require a property owner live in one of the dwelling units.
So it would in effect be a cottage on the property, casita. That would be a way to attack it. That might get me past it's clearly not subdividable. Even if they could meet the frontage, they'd never get the setbacks sorted out. So,
I mean,
The one, something what the square footage was?
of the barn?
Yeah.
What is the square footage of your barn?
They said 1,400.
1,400?
It's quite a bit
So
larger.
both-
Too big to be a
Yeah.
detached
It's
ADU.
2 stories, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2
So,
stories.
I mean,
Combined,
and that's just a fact of the life that there it is.
I mean, I do have I'm inclined to support it. I do have a little hesitation that I think we heard you could put a barn up as a matter of right. Someone could put up a barn and then piggyback that later and saying, oh, well, I have this barn, I have no other use for it. But in this case, I'm taking the applicant on, they seem to be in good faith. They didn't plot this out so that they could put up a barn and then 20, 30 years later say, shoehorn that into a whole nother structure. I feel like from their perspective, they have this barn that has no other use, so that's why I'm inclined in this particular case.
I mean, that's a long way to get to what you could do with an attached ADU.
Yeah.
We're stretching a point. Would anyone care to make a motion?
So I'll move to grant the variance from section 28-2-4H, multiple principal uses on a single lot to permit 2 attached dwellings on the same lot at 65 Weir Road because...
2 detached?
I'm sorry, 2 detached dwellings on the same lot at 65 Weir Road because all the criteria under 674-33 have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposed findings as the board's findings of fact, and again, adding the additional condition that at least one of the units remain owner occupied.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
No.
The vote is 4-1 with Ms. Spector-Morgan in the minority. The variance is granted. And that brings us to item 5 on the agenda, which is case 0268, Linda Lank and Orrin Reno on behalf of MOR Real Estate Holdings, LLC, and Allison Street Holdings, LLC, requested determination that the proposed change in use from a mixed-use building, 2 apartment units and 1 office space, to a triplex does not require a variance to continue the existing lot coverage to the extent that it exceeds 80%, and request approval for variances from Section 2841C, minimum lot frontage, Section 2841E, maximum lot coverage, and Section 2841H, table of dimensional regulations, to permit 53 feet of frontage where 80 feet is the minimum requirement, and lot coverage that exceeds the maximum of 80% at tax map lot 6444Z54, addressed at 63 School Street in the Civic Performance District. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Would you identify yourself for the record, Mr. Arnold, please?
John Arnold from Warren Reno, representing Moore Real Estate. And just to simplify, the application we put in and all the requests that you just articulated have been simplified since the application was filed. The only issue for tonight is the frontage variance. We've resolved the lot coverage. What else was read? Everything else that was read has been resolved except for the frontage.
Very good.
So the lot coverage, at the time that they submitted, we didn't have, staff didn't have the numbers showing the existing lot coverage. So we noticed that just to be on the safe side in case they were exceeding it. After the notification, they then submitted a map showing that they are below the lot coverage, so they do not need that variance. All they need is the variance from the frontage.
Very good.
So this is just a kind of a set of unfortunate circumstances here. My client bought the property about a year and a half ago. When they bought it, it had 2 residential apartments in it and 1 office unit in it. Historically, I mean, the building dates back to the late 1900s. Historically, it was a residential building. We don't know, the city doesn't have a record of when one of those units was converted to an office. My client believes it may have been about 15 years ago, but we can't find anything in the city records on any approvals for that. After they bought the property, they wanted to convert the office unit back to a residential apartment. They applied to the city, they got a building permit, they did all the work to convert it. They spent over 60 grand to do that work on the building permit. City inspectors came out throughout the course of construction, inspected it many times. And then on the final walkthrough inspection, the city said, we made a mistake on issuing the building permit. You should have come in for a site plan approval before we issued the building permit. So my client put in a site plan application, and then in review of the site plan application, the city staff identified that the lot is a non-conforming lot, only has 53 feet of frontage, and sent us to the zoning board, to you guys tonight, for that issue. There's no exterior changes that are happening here. The house is existing, the frontage is existing. Changes are purely interior. They've already occurred, they've already happened. I think one way to look at this is removing an office use that appears never to have been properly permitted in the first instance. Another way to look at it is that they relied on a building permit and did $60,000 worth of work already that's in there. But in terms of the variance criteria and just the overall situation, whether that third unit is an office or whether it's an apartment really doesn't have any bearing on the frontage issue. And the frontage is what it is, the building is what it is, the interior use of an apartment versus an office isn't going to have any impact on the public or on the city. And this work has already been done, so it would be a hardship to undo it at this point.
So are 3 units allowed here as a matter of right?
Yes.
So this issue where you're requesting a determination that you don't need a variance, that only was relevant to the lot coverage, which is now moot.
Right.
So
We're just
all you
asking-
need is a variance for frontage.
Frontage, yep.
And is 80 feet required? Does that go per the unit, or would 80 feet be required regardless of what's going on here? Even
80
if it's
feet
just a
total
single
for the
family house?
district, yep, no matter the use, and 53 feet is there, and that's what's been there since, again, late 1800s or something like that.
Very good. Other questions from the board? Anything else you'd like us to know?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this appeal? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to it? Any comments from code enforcement?
I just reiterate what Mr. Arnold said, that it is an extremely unfortunate set of circumstances that his client experienced with the building permit being issued by the building side.
Somebody made a mistake. I've never done that, but I've heard about people who do. Very good. All right. We'll start with Mr. Wallner here. How do you see this, sir?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
A mistake was made, let's fix it.
Mr. Monahan.
I have nothing to add.
Mr. Witters?
Yeah, I think I'd be inclined to approve this even if there was no mistake, if it was coming fresh, because it's been 53 feet and that's not going to change, and 3 units is allowed here as a matter of right anyway. So it's actually a pretty modest variance regardless.
Ms. Spector-Morgan?
Yep.
Me too, yep. Would anyone care to make a motion?
I will. I move to grant the variance from section 2841C, minimum lot coverage to permit 53 feet of frontage where 80 feet is the minimum requirement at 63 School Street, because all of the criteria under RSA 674:33 have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposed findings as a board's final findings of fact.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted. And that brings us to item 6 on our agenda, Frederick Meckel and Tarbell and Brodich P.
I'm stepping down on this one.
Me too.
Okay.
Rich, you're making everyone run.
And Tarbell.
We have kids in the same school.
And Brodich, PA, on behalf of Ian Flanagan, requested administrative appeal to reverse the administrative decision wherein it was determined that a lot is nonconforming as it pertains to lot size and lot frontage, and that variances are needed from those minimum lot size and lot frontage requirements to develop at tax map lot 7934, 7943Z75, addressed as 5 Broad Ave, in the medium-density residential RM district. I swear you both in, gentlemen. Swear to tell the truth.
Yes.
Would you identify yourselves for the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Carley. Friedrich Mokel of Tarbell and Brodich on behalf of the applicant, Ian Flanagan, who's with me here tonight.
Fire away, Mr. Mokel.
Thank you. I'll be brief because of the hour. Respectfully, my client disagrees with the city's legal position that the provisions of Article 28.8.3 C are not preempted by the 2010 amendment to RSA 674:39A and AA. I don't want to belabor the point because, as I understand it, the city's pretty firm in its position, as is my client. But I will just reiterate for the record that the 2010 amendment preempted the city's ordinance. Why it wasn't corrected by the city is beyond me. But nevertheless, even though it's still in the ordinance, doesn't mean that it's legal. And so what I call the involuntary merger provision in the non-conforming lot definition is illegal, and we respectfully request that this board overturn the code administrator's decision on that point.
Very good. Questions from the board?
Oh, I don't have any questions about it, no.
Pardon?
I don't have any questions for him, no.
Anything else you'd like to say on that topic?
Not on that topic.
Okay, we'll hold that then. I have a question for Ms. Skinner. I read your rationale for why you made the decision that you did. I have a question for you as far as the jurisdiction, as you understand it, of the zoning board. If we believe, as Mr. Mokel says, that the law is invalid because of subsequent state laws that have been passed, do we have the power to make a judgment based on that?
According to the city solicitor, yes.
We do. Okay, so we could decide the laws in mortal words of Charles Dickens' ass. Okay.
If I may respond to that and add to it, this board's quasi-jurisdictional authority contemplates this very question to interpret the ordinance in accordance with the laws, particularly the enabling legislation that led to this particular ordinance.
Okay. Then what's incumbent on us at this point to deal with the question before we move on to anything else. As a matter of procedure, when we're asked to make a change in administrative finding, do we need to solicit testimony from the floor? We do. All right. If you wouldn't mind stepping down, gentlemen.
We will.
My attorney informs me that Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this particular question, which is whether or not we should overrule or countermand the city's finding that a variance is needed? Is there anyone who would like to argue in opposition? Please come forward.
Good evening.
Good evening. Now, remember, we're not talking about a variance yet.
No, we're talking about the nonconformity of the lot.
No, we're talking about whether or not the lot, yes, you're correct, yes.
Hi.
It's late, and I'm,
It is, and we're all here, and thank you for your time.
you're entirely welcome. Do you swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Please have a seat and give us your name for the record.
Sure. My name is Nikki Carbone, and I reside at 3 Broad Ave. So while I have a vested interest in this, I also have a vested interest in the variance request that's being put forth next, should this position remain the same. I'm just here to say that I disagree with their statement. I understand they're saying that they're not saying that it's lawful, but you have upheld this decision, and I hope that you will uphold Ms. Skinner's position in that they don't meet criteria 3. This lot is owned by the same owner, both 8 Wood Ave and 5 Broad Ave by the same owner. It has been owned by the same owner for 60 years now, so I'm here to state my piece.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Any comments from code enforcement that we haven't already seen in the app?
No.
All right. With that, we'll declare that portion of the public testimony closed. And I'm going to start this one down at Ms. Spector Morgan's end of the table. How do you see it?
My understanding of what the city's ordinance does is not that it deems these lots to not be non-conforming lots or that they're voluntarily merged. What it says is that if non-conforming lots are held in common ownership, you're not permitted to develop them without meeting the requirements of the zoning ordinance or getting a variance. That, while it seems like a distinction without a difference, is a distinction with a difference, and I don't think it violates state law. So I would vote to deny the administrative appeal.
Very good. Mr. Davey, how do you look at it?
No further comment. I'll defer to Ms. Skinner and Ms. Spector Morgan. I don't disagree.
Don't disagree with you. In other words, you believe
Yes.
that it is not, that a variance is required.
Yes.
Okay, good. Mr. Wallner?
The same.
All right. I do as well. It may be that it does need amendment, but it didn't seem to me to directly require the joining of the lots, and therefore it didn't seem to me to be contradictory or in contravention of the state law saying you cannot require that, although I suspect it is an artifact of that power to require it, and maybe that rule should be changed. Anyone care to make a motion?
I will move to deny the administrative appeal for the reasons I just stated.
And anyone with a second?
Well, I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The request for overturning the ruling is denied, and now we will move on. Mr. Mokel, would you join us again, please? And
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I approach? I have a handout.
yes, of course. And we'll charge into the variance, which I will now read for the benefit of anyone here who hasn't read it already. This is Frederick Mokel and Tarbell and Brodich, PA, on behalf of Ian Flanagan. Request approval for variance from Section 2841B, minimum lot size, Section 2841C, minimum lot frontage, and Section 2841H, Table of Dimensional Regulations, to allow development of a lot with 5,227.2 square feet in area, where 6,250 square feet is the minimum requirement, and 50.1 feet of frontage, where 100 feet is the minimum requirement, at tax map lot 7943Z75, addressed as 5 Broad Ave, in the medium density residential RM district. The floor is yours, sir. You could consider yourself
we
still
promise
sworn
to
in.
tell the truth. 5 Broad Avenue is a vacant lot, and it's been a vacant lot for as long as I can tell. It's a product of a 1901 subdivision, and there it sits, undeveloped to this day. Beginning in, I believe it was the 40s, but not by deeds until the 80s, the property became conveyed along with 8 Wood Avenue. It is non-conforming, as you've just read, in size and frontage only. The applicant has determined that a single-family dwelling can be placed on that lot without violating any setbacks or any other dimensional regulations. Single-family homes are permitted in that zone. What's unique about this neighborhood, and you can see it from this aerial shot, and I've confirmed it with my eyes driving through there, but what you find in this neighborhood is that it is marked by being very densely settled and built. These houses are necessarily not large houses because they're on small lots. In fact, if one goes through the dimensional sizes of the lots in this neighborhood, one finds that only 3 lots in this neighborhood meet the 12,500 square foot requirement. Only 3 lots. And I define the neighborhood as, I believe, 50 plus houses in this neighborhood. The other thing that is interesting about this neighborhood is that where 100 feet of frontage is required, only about a third have that, which is to say that one of the characteristics of this neighborhood are substandard size lots, all with insufficient frontage, much less than 100 feet that's required. In fact, the least amount of frontage is 36 feet, yet there's a single-family home, and in fact, that lot is 3,900 square feet. That has the 36 feet. So having single-family homes on very small lots with very little frontage is something that is unique and to this neighborhood. Maybe not the neighborhood where we're going to put a brewery, but in this neighborhood, tightly settled and built houses are common. So does what the applicant proposed to do, is it going to materially depart from the characteristics of this neighborhood? And the answer is no. And importantly, I'll say it again, there is no intent, desire, or plan to build within the setbacks. If the board, just by way of example, if the board had overturned the code enforcement officer's decision, then this applicant would have been able to build by right a house as long as it didn't violate the setbacks, and that's the plan. I'm going to rely, because of the hour, on the narrative, and I want to turn to the final point. That handout I gave you is an appraisal from Lou Manius of Capital Appraisals.
I've read it word for word.
This one or a former one? I will summarize what Mr. Manius has concluded. Putting a single-family home on this property is not going to cause a diminution in surrounding property values. This board is probably still familiar with the project at 7 Bow Street. It's a very almost identical situation as was the 0 Elm Street problem, where you had what the applicant argued was a grandfathered lot, but it was under common ownership, so the applicant comes here and requests a variance. And because 7 Bow is one of the most recent examples, what Mr. Manius found is that that house did not cause a diminution in the surrounding property values. In fact, it raised them, okay? Even though that was a brand new house, he discounts that the price it fetched by 10% to normalize it to existing homes. And what you find, and this is his conclusion, is that that brand new house didn't reduce the surrounding property values. In fact, the surrounding property values were higher than the discounted price of the new house. So I know that's a concern. I know overcrowding is a concern, but again, I just remind the board that the proposal is to build a house within the setbacks and to have that single-family home on a lot that is substandard in size and has less frontage than the ordinance requires, but yet the character of the neighborhood is overwhelmingly marked by these homes on substandard lots with less than 100 feet of frontage. And then when we look at substantial justice, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a lot that's buildable, but for this frontage and area requirement. If you grant the variance, you allow a single-family home which serves a need that we've heard tonight, and we've heard it over the past couple of years about Concord's housing shortage. And here's the opportunity, as you've done on 7 Bow, as you've done on 0 Elm, to allow a single-family structure on a lot that otherwise doesn't meet just minor dimensional requirements. If the board has any questions, I'm happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Could you, going back briefly to the question, the appraisal, that I got a little fuzzy on the question of the adjustment of values based on the density. Could you explain that again, please?
I will. Here I am talking about what appears on page 2 of Mr. Manius's report. What he says is this: 7 Bow Street sold on June 21st, 2024 for $620,000. That translates, based on the square footage of that property, the house, $342.92 per square foot. And he looks at property sales in this area subsequent to June 21st, 2024. In other words, what did the creation of a single-family home on 7 Bow do to surrounding property values? And what he finds, and he admits that it's not the question that an appraiser would answer or be asked every day, but what he finds is that of the 3 lots that were sold in that area, the sale price was averaged to be $316.33 per square foot. Now, that's less than the $342 that 7 Bow fetched, but Mr. Manius properly adjusts that or normalizes the sale of a brand new house, which typically fetches more than an existing house, by 10%. And when he does that, because that's his expertise, he finds that the adjusted sale price would be $308.63, which is less than the going rate per square foot of the existing homes, which is another way of saying creation of a new house will not reduce the surrounding property values. It's very, and I guess in layman's terms, it's hard for an existing home to fetch the same price as a brand new house, all things otherwise being equal, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, because you're just getting a brand new home.
And the 7 Bow Street property, he considered to be analogous to
Absolutely,
the one we're looking at.
because if this board approves the relief requested, a new single-family home would be built on this lot, and we're focusing on the 5th prong. Will granting the variance reduce or cause a diminution in the surrounding property values? Legitimate question. You know, are you going to put the pig farm in the neighborhood? That's going to cause a diminution in surrounding property values. I don't think you need Mr. Manius to testify to that, but here we're putting in an identical use on a lot that is considerably, I would say, nearly identical to all the other lots in the neighborhood.
Very good. Questions from the board? Anything else you'd like us to know?
Not at this point. We just would like the opportunity to respond to any abutters.
Very good.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who'd like to be heard in favor of this appeal?
Yes.
Please come forward. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
Yes.
May we have your name, please?
Connor O'Keefe.
What would you like us to know, Mr. O'Keefe?
I'd first of all like to thank the board for letting me speak tonight in favor of the project, and just like to say that as a resident of the South End for the last 8 years, in knowing Mr. Flanagan personally, his roots are deep in the community, and where I live on Wood Ave, directly across the street from 8 Wood Ave, the house that was remodeled, it was remarkable. It came out great, and a lot of the neighbors on the street agreed, and I have no doubt in my mind that that construction on Broad Ave would be conducted the same way. You know, the truth is that it is a densely populated neighborhood.
I grew up in Boston. I could lean out my bathroom window and touch my neighbor's house, so I might be a little biased to it, but so when I moved to Concord, I thought I was at Gillette Stadium with all the room I had there. That's why the city has time frames for construction, you know, working during the day, and I know it's an inconvenience, but Mr. Flanagan has a lot of integrity, and the remodel, like I said, on Wood Ave came out great with no complaints that I'm aware of from any other neighbors, and yes, I'm in favor of it, and just want to thank you again for letting me share tonight.
Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of the appeal? Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition? All right, come on up and join us. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
Yes, I do.
May we have your name, please?
My name is Larry Linden Jr., and I am a resident and own the house on 1 Broad Avenue. I'm also here representing my in-laws who live on 10 Broad Avenue.
Can you show us where that is?
On that map, I am the house 2 over on the right, the corner lot, on the Broadway Broad Ave. 1 Broad, and then 10 Broad Ave, that's my in-laws right there. They're directly across the street from the vacant lot that's been vacant since 1901, reason because it's too small. And I am on 1 Broad Avenue that has 2 lots, which actually had to sell in order for the house on 3 Broad Avenue. This is before my time. Was able to put in a driveway. They had to gain 10 feet of land to build that driveway, and the previous owner of my house sold 10 feet of our property to them to put in the garage and driveway into that land. I'm not opposed to construction, but Mr. Flanagan's trying to sell a lot for $155,000 with a 2,400 square foot design home on there. He's not concerned with the housing crunch. He's concerned with putting a dollar in his pocket, since he's trying to split the land from Wood Avenue. That's been vacant since Florence had owned it since 1944. There's been a reason there's no development on the lot. It is too small for any type of house. Construction's not a problem to me. Having a 3-story house on a home in the south end will make it stick out like a sore thumb. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, any questions?
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Did you sign?
I did.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Please come forward. Now, we are talking about the variance.
We are, yes.
Okay.
I think I got it straight the first time.
Okay.
So again, Nikki Carbone, I'm the resident at 3 Broad Ave. I do have several concerns regarding the construction of a home on this lot. As my neighbor has stated, this lot doesn't meet zoning requirements as they stand present day. I agree that the lot was formed back in 1901 or 1904 and zoning requirements were different. Back then, a home being constructed wasn't being constructed with the heavy machinery that would be required today to excavate a property. Now, as you can see, if you look on there, having a home built on this would encroach on my property. So I have severe concerns on the damage with the machinery needed to be able to maneuver on that, and I think there's a high risk of damage, that incidental damage that could occur to my property in the result of this. And I know that they are discussing the home on 7 Bow as being an example, but we aren't discussing a remodel of an existing home. All the homes in this neighborhood were built decades ago, if not close to a century ago. My own home was built in 1932. So we're not talking about updating an existing dwelling. There is an impact to the neighborhood, let alone be construction, noise, worrying about machinery and traffic, which I know special duty could be assigned if it needed to. But I do have several concerns in the fact that in the front of our home, we have a natural gas line that runs from the front of our home. This natural gas line runs through our property and along the front line of that lot that is going to be excavated on. Now, a gas line is 18 inches down. Should this gas line be hit? Maybe, maybe not, but there is a real possibility that there could be ensuing damage to that gas line with the excavation, with the paving of a driveway in order to build this home. So while that risk might be minimal, there is public risk and damage that could occur. And I don't think that anybody within reason could say that that risk is 0 or could be mitigated to 0. So beyond that, I mean, again, I'll keep this brief. It is late. I share my neighbors' concerns. There's a lot of discussion on vacant lots and this being a vacant lot. This isn't a non-utilized vacant lot. It has served agricultural purposes for 8 Wood Ave. She has used it as a lawn for 60 years. It would certainly serve the purpose, if not for 8 Wood Ave, I'm sure for either of the adjacent properties on Broad Ave. So it does serve a purpose as it stands, but there's a discussion about it being unique because it's the only vacant lot per se, that doesn't have a dwelling on it. Well, there are several vacant lots in that neighborhood as it stands today. By owner choice, those lots have then been zoned in accordance with, the adjacent property and utilized as a lawn for those properties, but there are several vacant lots in this. Again, 1 Broad Ave, a part of the lot next to it, it's zoned as 1, but it was still 1. If you look at 21 and 23 Broad Ave, I believe it's zoned now as just 23, but that is 2 lots. That's one example. On Wood Ave, you have 34 and 36 Wood Ave. Both were 2 separate lots that are now zoned as 1, utilizing the second lot.
By zone, you mean they're merged?
Merged, excuse me, yes. Now utilized as a lawn. So I respect the request. I see the housing crunch that we have. I don't think 1 home is really going to make a substantial difference in our housing market as it stands. Several homes in our neighborhood have come up for sale in the past year alone, so the availability of homes is there. The availability for new construction in Concord as a whole, Shelburne Lane being one of the avenues, is there. So I don't see a reason why a newly constructed build in an already densely populated neighborhood needs to exist. This is a well-established, quiet neighborhood. None of those homes have been constructed within the past 10 years, within the past 20 years even. So I just don't see a valid reason as to why the purpose that it exists for now can't continue to exist, whether it be for 8 Wood Ave or whether it be for one of the adjacent properties, should the owner want to sell the lot, why it can't exist as such, as it's continued to exist as such, and serve that purpose.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess we're all set.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Any comments from code enforcement? Oh, there is somebody who wants to be heard. I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is, go ahead.
Swear to tell the truth?
I do.
And your name, please.
My name is Jim Harvey. I live on 2 Wood Ave, right behind my neighbors that just spoke very nicely. And my wife would be here too, but she did the road race today, so she's not here. So, but our property abuts there in the corner of what they're trying to do with the.
Which is your property now?
It's this one
2
right
Wood
here.
Ave.
Right here.
Got it. Okay.
And just before I even read my letter, a great comment is that there's a lot of homes out there that have a second lot. I mean, if you open this up, I could sell my lot if you say, oh, gee, wow, 50 feet. A lot of us have 50 feet, but we leave it open because it's a beautiful neighborhood. All those 3 streets, Broad, Hope, and Wood, are fantastic. There's a lot of space there, and homes haven't been built there for a reason, because people want the space and want the quiet neighborhood. I like to so the 100 feet to 50 feet, that's a huge difference, as you guys know. My wife and I believe that granting a variance in this instance would create several negative consequences for both the nearby residents and overall planning of this neighborhood. One key issue is the parking and the traffic. The limited frontage would likely result in inadequate driveway, leading to increased on-street parking. This would put a strain on the local traffic flow, especially Hope, Wood, and Broad Ave. As you know, if you walk through those neighborhoods, there's kids playing on the streets all the time. There's babies being in strollers walking around, and also we don't have sidewalks on those 3 streets. So you're going to increase the traffic. Now I'm finding out there's going to be a 3-story building, which is another. We'll get that next. Sorry about that. So the traffic it's a small, tiny neighborhood. I'd like to keep it that way. Additionally, homes built undersized lots can negatively impact the architectural character of the neighborhood. This limit of the lot size is now we're gonna make a tall home. And I feel for my neighbors that these tall homes, this tall home is gonna be looking down there and reduce privacy in the neighborhoods, neighbors across this, next to each other. Also, I've known the neighbors for about almost 25, 30 years. I've cut their lawns, they're elderly, so I did a lot of work. And that piece of land is well below the level of all the other lands. So if you start building on there, we're gonna have some water, they're gonna have, neighbors are gonna have water problems because they got built up land. And right now, you walk in there, it's it's like a flood zone, though it's not called that. So I'm really concerned about just the storm water and all the water damage that could happen if they build that up. Let's see. When I first moved there, my wife and I moved to Concord. We were in the Thorndike Street area. It was very congested and very tight. I mean, you look out the window, you see a neighbor right there. So we ended up buying a house on Wood Ave. And what we loved is that we went from a high-density area to a lovely neighborhood with a lot of space around there. And it's not congested, it's more spacious, and it has been a wonderful area for kids to grow up. All right, so I'm hearing from the people that want to build it, they're talking about setbacks. That's no problem. It's not the setbacks we're worried about. It's also house butt to butt in the house. It'll feel like I'm at Thorndike Street again with the houses side by side. I urge the board to consider not denying this variance, and thank you very much for your time tonight.
Any questions? Thank you.
I'll sign it already.
Anyone else like to be heard? Please come forward. Swear to tell the truth and nothing but.
I do.
May we have your name, please?
Martha Mitchell,
What would you like us to know, Ms. Mitchell?
3 Wood Ave. I don't have a problem with them building a house. I have a problem with a 3-story house. Build a little 800 square foot house like I have. I don't have any problem with it. But 3 stories, there'll be no privacy for those poor people on either side. The setback, the street, it's gonna be a monstrosity. We already have that on Hope Ave. We have one, and it's not attractive. But it went through, and it's done. But I do worry about the privacy.
Very good, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard? Any comments from code enforcement?
No.
Very good. Mr. Mokel, would you like to offer any factual clarification in response to anything that you've heard?
Yes, please. I would like to say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Thank you for having us. I know what it's like to have late meetings. I'm a select board member on Bow, so we often have late meetings. But Mr. Harvey was my JV basketball coach. I hadn't got a chance to say hello, so Mr. Harvey, hello. Haven't seen you in 25 years, but to answer some of these concerns about the height of a house, we haven't submitted any plans or have anything like that. And I think one of the concerns you said was a flood zone. That is a very level lot with the street. So, and one of the other concerns I heard was the gas line. There is a gas line. I have had Dig Safe out just to get a sense of what was out there. And he's correct, there is a gas line, but I think that given everything the concerns are, I think things could be mitigated to lessen concerns about that.
I just wanted to hit a couple of points quickly. Larry Linden said that this lot, 5 Broad, is too small for any house, and he was representing the owners of 10 Broad, and I'll just point out that that lot has 63 feet of frontage and is 6,534 square feet, so it's a substandard lot. So at what point do we say a lot's too big or too small. In this neighborhood, the lot sizes are as small as 3,920 square feet. So obviously that's an incorrect statement factually. There are 5 houses that are on lots smaller than 5 Broad Avenue that already support a single-family home. And I would also point out that 1 Broad Avenue, where Mr. Linden lives, it's sort of an anomaly with respect to the neighborhood. It has 100, because it's a corner lot, it's 182 feet of frontage, and it's almost, I'll call it 11,760 square feet. So this lot in this neighborhood is not too small to support a single-family home, and we know that by looking at the other lots that already have single-family homes. Those are smaller lots. There's another comment that there are other vacant lots in this neighborhood. If you zoom out, you will see that that's just not true. This is the only vacant lot in this neighborhood, and that is, from a zoning standpoint, that's a unique factor. We also heard a concern that a single-family home on 5 Broad will increase parking and traffic. If you do the math, just from the neighborhood, I did 51 plus or minus houses. So this is what, a 2%. One single-family home is going to increase traffic maybe 2%. I don't know if that rises to the level of something adverse to the entire neighborhood or the community. I don't think it does. As to the other concern that this single-family home is going to increase on-street parking, I don't know if there's anything to support that. If Mr. Flanagan decides to build a garage, or these homeowners decide to park in their driveway, as I mentioned before, this house will meet the setback requirements. So it will have a driveway, and people can park their cars there. And there's nothing to support the idea that there's going to be an increase of on-street parking. That is the factual distinctions that I'd like to point out. Is there anything?
Thank you so much.
I think one other thing, also 7 Bow Street is a new construction. I think that was someone.
Right, that wasn't a remodel.
It's not a remodel. That's a new construction that I believe this board approved almost 2 years to the date. That was, I think it was May 3rd, 2023. But thank you. I truly hear the concerns of people. I have deep roots in the community. I grew up on Ironworks Road. My mother lives in the South End. My brother lives in the South End. We own a small business in the South End. I have a vested interest to do right by the neighborhood and be a steward of the South End and be a good neighbor and have a good reputation. So.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
With that, we'll declare the public testimony portion of the hearing closed, and I will invite the board to deliberate on the subject of a variance for building a house on an empty lot on Broad Ave. Mr. Davey, you haven't gotten to go first yet tonight.
I won't throw my plaque across the room this time in a fit of rage.
I understand how you feel.
I don't have an issue with it. I see the hardship. It totally fits with the neighborhood character, as the applicant laid out with numbers just now as well. And I think they did their due diligence with the market analysis regarding the property value, surrounding property values. Yeah, I have no issue with it.
Mr. Wallner.
I agree. It is a substandard lot, but so are just about every other lot on those 3 streets. I'm impressed that he can do it without any setback variances.
I know.
Ms. Spector-Morgan.
I agree. I hear the concerns of the neighbors, but they're largely things that we don't have any control over. The height of the house, the gas line, the alleged wetness of the lot. Those are just things that have nothing to do with the variance, unfortunately. So, I mean, this is a substandard lot that exists. It does appear to be the only vacant one in the neighborhood. I think if we were to deny this, a court would overturn us in a heartbeat. So I think this is a variance that frankly has to be granted.
I agree with my colleagues. Would anyone care to make a motion
I move that we grant the variances from section 2841B, minimum lot size, section 2841C, minimum lot frontage, and 2841H, table of dimensional regulations, to allow development of a lot with 227.2 square feet in area and 50.1 feet of frontage at 5 Broad Avenue, because all of the criteria under RSA 674-33 have been met based on the record before us, and to adopt the applicant's proposed findings as the board's findings of fact.
Would anyone care to second that motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The vote is unanimous. The variance is granted. That moves us to last month's minutes. Were all three of you here for last month?
Yes. I was, yeah, move approval. You weren't here, and I had to conduct the business.
That's right. And I bet it went well.
It went well, because I
It
had
went
some,
beautifully. He did
I
a
had some
great job.
able-bodied assistants here that made it so easy for me.
All right.
Didn't need us.
Okay, have you guys voted on the last month's minutes or not?
Yeah, I made the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I will abstain because I wasn't here. Any other new business? Nope. Nope. Very good. Am I meant to take this home with me?
Oh.
Before you guys leave,
Yes.
the iPads, I have to swap them out, please.
Oh, this is.
Because they have names on them. I forgot. If you look at the,
I have next.
Oh, my iPad has a name.
it has a name.
Oh, yeah.
Your name. You got Brenda's. This is Chris's.
I have Sarah, I have
That's
Laura's.
Okay.
I just want to make sure, anyone who's going to take one tonight, make sure you sign the form.
I think,
I don't need to take it.
I think I'm not gonna take one.
I'm gonna wait 1 month.
I'll let someone else in the city.
I'll decide if
Take
I
advantage of
use
it.
it.
Do we get more pay if we don't take
Also, I
them?
don't wanna lose and break it. I
I'm
got
sure
enough-
there's
I got
a way
enough
to
stuff I
close
could
this
bring.
thing without breaking it.
Oh.
So I need, I'll give you this.
Oh,
We are adjourned, yes. I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Give it tomorrow? Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can turn off the TV.